I never got into Digimon growing up. I think I vaguely remember it being in circulation with Shaman King, Mega Man NT Warrior, and Sonic X. I think it was just that early 2000s kid logic where anything with Mon in the title was just a Pokemon ripoff. Well, around 2017, Billiam's Digimon Retrospective succeeded in getting me somewhat interested in the franchise, and it just so happened to be when I bought my PS4. So while browsing for new games, that's when I saw it. Digimon Story, Cyber Sleuth. Looking at the back of the box, that feels like such an ancient concept now. Looking at the back of the box, I liked what I saw. It had me thinking back to Pokemon Colosseum with how the Digimon were lined up during battles. I picked it up alongside Akiba's Trip, a series which I also plan on talking about at some point. I thoroughly enjoyed Cyber Sleuth and would argue that its success was a catalyst for the resurgence of Digimon games, because following that we had a sequel in Hacker's Memory, which I never actually got around to, Digimon World Next Order, which I sunk way too many hours into, and Digimon Survive, which... mixed feelings. And with a third Digimon Story game due to release in October, I figured now would be the right time to delve back into this series, see if I still enjoy Cyber Sleuth, and to play Hacker's Memory for the first time. So let's jam. Okay, do I need to get into Digimon's origins as a series? Well, after speaking to my teenage siblings, I realized I do, since they'd never heard of Digimon before, which is so wild to me. Once upon a time, in the mid-90s, there existed a very popular toy known as Tamagotchi, digital pocket pets that you'd raise, feed, and play games with. They were a popular fad amongst girls for a few years, but I don't think it lasted very long, as when I was growing up in the mid-2000s, I remember everyone being more into Neopets. Or, if you were a weirdo like me, you played with scanners.
Just in, alien monsters from a distant galaxy have landed on Earth and are hiding in real barcodes on real products everywhere.
Scanners time! Let's go get them!
You can only capture them with scanners. Scanners let you scan any barcode on real products and capture the monsters. Then battle them on your own or play head-to-head to win. They're hiding in millions of barcodes everywhere. You can scan them, capture them, fight them with scanners. The more you scan, the more you fight, the more powerful you become. Scanners! Scan them, capture them, fight them. Cards and comic book included, batteries not included.
I swear it was just me and one other friend that had these. We would beg our parents to take us shopping with them just so that we could scan every barcode and battle each other. Okay, sorry, back to the mid-90s. Tamagotchi was a big hit with girls, so Bandai wanted to see if they could make an alternative that would appeal more to boys. Hence, Digital Monsters, Digimon was born, where there was more of an emphasis on training and evolving your digital monster to battle other kids and their digital monsters, which amounted to a big success. So there was no sole creator. In fact, the Bandai team behind Digimon go under a collective pseudonym of Akiyoshi Hongo. With the popularity of Pokemon, Hongo saw a big market for expanding the Digimon franchise. Hence, 2 years later, we got Digimon World on the PS1 and the Digimon anime. Now this next part is me speaking on pure conjecture. But I think when it comes to what draws people to Digimon, back then and even now as somebody who only recently got into this franchise, is the storytelling. That and the Digimon designs are cool as hell, and the pet raising mechanics. Okay, there's a lot to love, but the narrative and character work in Digimon is so ambitious. Each new entry into this franchise, whether it be a game or anime, is always trying something new and pushing some sort of boundary to what this franchise can accomplish. And whilst it doesn't always work, I respect the attempt, but that might also be to its own detriment as Digimon has no consistent formula, so trying to get into it at any point is a bit of a gamble. And I think that's one of the reasons why Digimon hasn't succeeded in hitting that multi-generational appeal that Pokemon has. Yeah, modern Pokemon is arse, but at least kids know what they're getting. But at this point, comparing the two is reductive. They're each their own thing. I just wanted a frame of reference to emphasize how much Digimon tries to innovate from a storytelling perspective, as that's what I like to focus on in my videos, and it will bleed into our commentary on Cyber Sleuth. So, where were we? Over the years, the Digimon franchise would evolve as games would be a constant thing, even having their own sub-series of games like the World series, Rumble Arena series, and the Story series, which originally debuted on the Nintendo DS, which would consist of 4 games until 2011. By that point, the gaming side of Digimon was rather dormant, but as the 15-year anniversary was approaching, Bandai Namco decided to celebrate with a bang. Enter Kazumasa Habu and his Digimon modernization plan. I made that name up, but that was his intention. to bring Digimon back for a modern audience, resurrecting two of its sub-series in Digimon World New Order and Digimon Story Cyber Sleuth, both in development at the same time. His idea was that New Order would bring Digimon back to its roots as a pet raising simulator, as that's what you'd spend most of your time doing. While combat is a factor, it's very straightforward and more of a slugfest. While Cyber Sleuth was meant to capitalize on the popularity of modern JRPGs like Persona, and wanted to focus on a mature narrative that would appeal to the demographic of people that experienced Digimon as kids and are now a lot older, he was clearly firing on all sides in order to push Digimon into modern gaming relevancy, and given the reception and hype behind Time Stranger's announcement, I'll say the man succeeded. Originally released on the Vita and PS4 in 2015, we weren't actually gonna get Cyber Sleuth in the West, as the previous story games were never localized as they just didn't think Digimon had appeal overseas, but it was due to massive fan outcry and petitioning that it would be made international. And it shows. This is, what, the fourth game I'm looking at now with a wonky translation? Well, in this game it weirdly works. This is a game that doesn't take itself too seriously. While the story does have huge stakes and has its dour moments, the characters are all very wacky and quirky, and as you get through the game you'll see what I mean. Suzuhito Yasuda of Durara fame is responsible for the character designs, and it just makes so much sense. The guy never seems to work on characters that aren't somewhat unhinged. The translation errors aren't problematic when it comes to the overall story, it just results in some very awkward line reads and enhances the quirkiness of some of these characters like Kyoko Kuremi. I think it's only really annoying when it comes to choosing dialogue options because what the fuck? But this is one of those games where your choices doesn't really matter, you're sort of just along for the ride. Speaking of which, let's get the ride started. Spoilers are abound, so you've been warned. I'm Bijika, and today, Digimon Story Cyber Sleuth.
デジラボへ。ここはデジタルワールドとかすかに交わる電脳空間の狭間よ。ここに来られたということは、あなたにはここに刻まれた運命にアクセスする資格があるということね。それなら選んでちょうだい。この2つの運命、どちらの枝葉をたぐるのか。あなたの前にあるのは、現実世界と電脳世界が交わることで起きるある物語の記録よ。時を同じくして起きたこの物語を、それに巻き込まれた2人の人間の視点を通してあなたは見ることができる。お互いに立場も違えば、物語の中で果たした役割も全く違うこの2人。どちらの視点でこの物語をたぐるのか。さあ、選んでちょうだい。
So yeah, I'm gonna be playing this via the special edition which packages both Cyber Sleuth and Hacker's Memory in the same place, meaning you can also carry over data from one to another, at least once you've beaten one anyway. Just make sure you close the game once you're done with it. Trust me, your save file will thank you.
あとは定められた運命が導くままにお行きなさい。それじゃあね、また物語の中で会いましょう。
エンジョイチャット、ようこそエンジョイチャットへ。チャットルームを選択してください。パスワードを入力してください。ウェルカム。
The game begins in an online chat room. It's funny how late 2000s this feels. This game was announced in 2013. Really think back to that time and what accessing the internet was like. Smartphones were still somewhat fresh. I mean, in 2012, I was still sitting at the family PC when I wanted to go online. And online chat rooms have more or less been replaced by Discord. But these online chat rooms and forums really were the Wild West. I'm sure I unknowingly spoke to a PDF file at some point. And I've definitely been catfished, but that just feels like a canon event for our generation. Ah, nostalgia. So this is a chat room we visit often. Alba is us. It's canonically their last name as we get to choose the first. In this world, Digimon are just programs used by hackers. This game kept reminding me of Mega Man Battle Network, I swear. Mr. Navit, who's the Eden mascot, appears suddenly in our room inviting us to meet him in Eden. Some are convinced he's probably been hacked. Some think it's an Eden special event. Akino is excited to check it out and strong arms us into joining them. Blue Box is very reluctant to do so but decides to come along to ensure we don't get into any trouble. We'll be meeting these two characters in person very soon, and I think this opening scene does a good job of characterizing them and letting us know what to expect from them.
ようこそ電脳空間の楽園エデンへ。エデンはメタバースにおいて革新的なサービスの数々を提供する新世代型デジタルコンテンツです。ショッピングから映画などの各種エンターテインメント、企業間の商取引から行政機関の手続きまで、皆様のニーズにお応えし、皆様の生活の一部となるサービスを本日も心を込めてご案内させていただきます。従来のネット、画面上でのやり取りではなく、アバターを介しての直感的なバーチャルリアリティ体験と最先端の電脳空間サービスを心ゆくまでお楽しみください。エデンは世界をつなぎ未来を紡ぐヒューマンネットワーク、上白エンタープライズが運営しております。
Welcome to Eden, a cyberspace ran by Kamishiro Enterprises. You'll also realize that our main character is very chatty in the chat room. Does that stay consistent throughout the game? Kind of. He's mostly silent with the very occasional inner thought, but he's very expressive, so he has some degree of personality, even within the dialogue options that we get. A lot of his responses are somewhat quirky jokes. Sorry, I know I'm overusing the word quirky, but that really does describe this game's dialogue to a T. Admittedly, the protagonist's dialogue does make me laugh at times. I'll highlight them as they come up. But yeah, we're a little early, so we spend some time wandering around Eden and get some flavor text. People connect to Eden via digivices which come in all forms, like phones or our goggles. I find it so weird that nobody has a Dragon Ball Z Scouter as a digivice. This just feels like the kind of world where that would exist. Mr. Navit finds us wandering around and tells us to go to Kowloon as our friends are already there, but he doesn't actually tell us how to get there, dickhead. But this is our introduction to the keywords and URL mechanics. They'll come into play a lot later on when you're actually a detective, but in short, you're given a keyword, in this instance, Kowloon, and you need to speak with people that have locks on their heads which may give you the next keyword or answer that you need. In this instance, the second person that we speak to gives us the URL to Kowloon. It's a very straightforward process, almost to the point of tediousness. I can only think of one instance where they got creative with it, but other than that, it's very superfluous. I think Persona 4 did a better job when you had to gather info on the kidnapped victims. Cause I like the idea and how it fits into the Cyber Sleuth theme, but it needed to have a bit more fleshing out in my opinion. But I like Eden as a concept. We run into this old man that talks about how he can't walk in real life, but in Eden his avatar can walk for miles. I always find this sort of setting charming when it's done around the right sort of time frame. Like I said, I found myself thinking a lot about Mega Man Battle Network, this somewhat dated take about what the internet is going to be like in the future. Finally arriving at Kowloon, this place is creepy. Oh, and here's Nokia.
どうもどうも、アッキーノです。エデンだと初めましてだね。っていうか、私白峰ノキア。よろしく。じゃない。
She's loud, accompanied by Arata, who's more of the pragmatic, brooding loner. This is gonna be our trifecta of heroes in this tale. Now I know I didn't give them a glowing introduction, but that's the idea. They're meant to be a little unlikable in the beginning as it gives them room to grow throughout the story. Nokia is very self-absorbed and temperamental, while Arata's extremely arrogant and pessimistic, and they don't really get along with each other at first. I say at first, but more like the first half of the game, but for more reasons than you may think. The development of one character will result in the regression of another, making for some interesting clashes later on. It's kinda cool actually, but we'll get there. The characters notice how empty Kowloon is. It's the back alley of Eden where troublemakers such as hackers like to congregate. As we're having second thoughts about this event, we get hacked. Finding a new app installed, the DigiCapture program, with Arata stating that being able to use Digimon makes us hackers now, causing Nokia to freak out since hackers have such a negative stigma attached to them. Seeing a figure in the distance that could be responsible for luring us here, Arata gives chase, but Nokia just wants to be done with all this and tries to leave but is blocked by a firewall. Since there's no turning back, my only choice is to head in the same direction as Arata. Nokia's frozen from fear and refuses to move, so we leave her behind for now. Welcome to Kowloon. Get used to this aesthetic and music because you'll be seeing it a lot for the first few chapters. After some aimless walking, we see these mysterious flashes of a pale boy. There's a rumour going around Eden about a ghost that appears in Kowloon randomly, though after those flashes, that pale boy appears in front of us in the flesh, oblivious of any sort of vision, not quite understanding what we're talking about when we mention the rumour. A plot point which will come full circle much later. For now, just know that this is Yugo. He seems aware that we've involuntarily become hackers and asks what kind of hacker do I want to be. He gives us our starter Digimon. I choose Terriermon because just look at the thing. He wants us to become a hacker that can protect Eden, though before we can capture any of the 3 Digimon, a larger Digimon appears and chases them away. We express that we want to rescue the Digimon. Yugo questions why we're worried about a bunch of programs, but he's humoured by us nonetheless, so he decides to fight the enemy Digimon, as Terriermon also steps in to protect me. After defeating it, he comments that it's rare to obtain a Digimon without using Digimon capture. Guess our bond with Terriermon must be genuine, so he'll be keeping an eye on us, along with explaining that Kowloon was Eden's original entry point back in its inception, but now it's just forgotten dregs. But our companion, Arata, would already know that since he was already a hacker, though when Yugo realizes that this information is new to us, he decides to cut the conversation there, his parting words being that he's the leader of Team Zaxxon, the biggest and most notorious hacker group, and that their doors are always open to us. Armed with the protection of Terriermon, we return to where we left Nokia, who's being playfully terrorized by Agumon and Gabumon. They mention that she smells familiar, with Nokia assuming that this must just be her natural pheromones. Yeah, Nokia has such a big ego that she takes anything anyone says as a compliment to her. Though when we arrive, they mistake us for being hostile and the two run away. When Nokia notices Terriermon, she says that Digimon are actually very cute and becomes much less afraid of them. Let's get back on course to wherever Arata went. Now we actually get random encounters from wild Digimon. Along the way, Nokia says this all feels rather familiar, but she can't get a sense as to why. As she tries to think on it, we get a creepy vision of 5 faceless kids, which lasts for about a second. Leaving us confused, as if that wasn't creepy enough, the ghostly boy from earlier watches onwards as we proceed. We jump cut over to Arata, who seemingly saw the same thing that we did. Upon rendezvousing with him, we're confronted by a mysterious data-devouring monster. Gabumon and Agumon arrive to protect Nokia, and we also join in to hold it off while Arata attempts to hack into a disabled access point. You know, for somebody who seemingly only just became a hacker, Arata's very adept at this, isn't he? We deal a grand total of 0 damage to the thing, but thankfully Arata is able to reactivate the exit point. Jumping in ahead of me, I scramble for the exit, but the monster is able to touch me momentarily, causing an error in my logout process, resulting in this digital form. As people around us are fascinated by our appearance, Officer Date threatens to arrest us. Though thankfully we're rescued by this lovely young lady, Detective Kyoko Kuremi, ending the prologue. So far I think we've got a strong introduction. All of our time is spent in the digital world so that we get a solid grasp on the fictional concepts introduced. All of our key players are characterized very strongly, and we've got a pile of mysteries on our hands. What's the deal with those weird ghost boy flashes and correlation to Yugo? Can he be trusted given the fact that Team Zaxxon aren't painted in a good light? What was the flash with those 5 faceless kids? What was the mini Cthulhu looking thing that attacked us? Well, we're not going to be getting answers to those questions for a long time, but that's fine. It's a JRPG after all, I'm not exactly in a rush. Chapter 1. Welcome to the Kuremi Detective Agency. Once we explain everything to Kuremi, she hypothesizes that our mental data on Eden separated from our physical body, meaning our body is out there somewhere, probably unconscious, as we exist as this manifestation of our mental data. She calls it a cyber body, and you could just tell she's just loving this and not even trying to hide it. She lives for a good mystery. For now, we should begin by gathering junk avatar data from Eden in order to reconstruct our body so that we don't have this ghastly appearance. As we're about to log in, we hear a voice telling us to jump into the TV, leading us into cyberspace, and popping out in Eden. This is going to be our ability throughout the game. The Cyber Jump. Being a half cyber being, we can now access cyberspace throughout any electronic without needing a digivice. I always have the Code Lyoko theme song playing in my head whenever I do this. In Eden, everybody treats us like we're the missing node from Pokemon. The fragmented data we need is scattered in Kowloon, which we can't access due to the firewall that was placed there earlier. The voice that called us into the TV calls out to us again, and we follow it, leading us to the Digilab and its occupier, Mirei Mikagura, the face of modern Digimon. She first debuted in Digimon World Redigitized, which was a PSP title from 2012, made several appearances in some manga one-shots, and now here she is. She would also go on to appear in Digimon World New Order, Hacker's Memory 2, but that's kind of a given. You'll be visiting the Digilab quite often as it's where the Digimon raising aspect of the game comes into play, but we're the only ones that have access to this place because Destiny and our special bond with Digimon and blah blah blah. She grants us access to hacking skills which we'll be getting lots of use out of during our adventure. In this instance, it's so that we can break the firewall and re-enter Kowloon. We gather the necessary data and reconstruct our appearance. Before I have time to celebrate, Kuremi is visited by Detective Matayoshi, a senior detective and somewhat of a father figure to Kuremi since he worked very closely with her father while he was alive. He's concerned about the rise of Eden syndrome, an illness where people fall unconscious while in Eden and are unable to log out. They're being kept in a special ward at the hospital, unavailable to the public or even family. The hospital is also run by Kamishiro Enterprises, the very same that created Eden, as they're keeping all this talk about Eden syndrome very hush-hush. He just came along because he wanted to pass the word. As Kuremi offers to pour him some coffee, he rushes out the door while warning us to never accept her coffee, a recurring joke in the game being how terrible her coffee is. Kuremi suggests that we may be connected to Eden syndrome given our current situation, so we go to the hospital with her. At the hospital, I run into this shy girl that ignores us. See you at the gym on Tuesday, brother. We can't access the special ward as it's heavily guarded, so time to cyberjump. In the ward, I see my own body in the hospital bed. That has to be surreal, honestly. We steal some data and run into that shy girl from the lobby. She's hostile at first, but once we tell her we're here to investigate Eden syndrome, she's more than willing to comply, as she's actually looking into it herself. But once we try to point fingers at Kamishiro, she defends them, saying that they have nothing to do with this and are trying to find a cure. Our conversation is interrupted as a Kamishiro executive, Miss Kishibe-ri, arrives, and she's quick to make her first impression. Miss Ri and the girl know each other, but we don't know to what extent, but she tells us we need to hide. She greets the girl with nothing but positive energy, even using her first name, which is Yuko. Though Miss Ri admittedly is my favourite kind of villain, she feigns ignorance but knows exactly what she's doing. She knows Yuko is up to something dodgy, but plays it innocent under the guise of Yuko hiding a romantic rendezvous. So she enters the room where we were hiding in, only to find nothing. Obviously we connect jumped, and return to Kuremi's office, giving her the data we found and telling her everything that happened, with her surmising that we have Eden syndrome. But we're the first to actually manifest a cyber body outside Eden. She vows to help us return to our body, and in exchange, we help her out at the agency, and she says her father's quote.
ただひたすらに粘り強く、鉄頭鉄尾、堅固な黒金のごとき忍耐力で当たれ。父の言葉だ。
Which I do fuck with. We agree to become her assistant, and we cement the occasion with a cup of coffee. Seaweed and red bean paste coffee. Like I said, that's the running gag. She continuously makes abominations. As a coffee junkie, this makes me angry. But here we are. Our career as a cyber sleuth has officially begun. Kyoko Kuremi. I think she's the heart and soul of the game. She's your home base. She's where you return to after a long day of fulfilling requests and cases. So it was important to nail her character. She's strong-willed and stern when she needs to be, but she's also very playful with an abstract sense of humor. A lot of the translation issues do come from her dialogue, but it weirdly works in her favour. For spoilery reasons, it's in line with the reason she always makes such nonsensical coffee. She's meant to have an oddball sense of humour which never lands with the younger characters, on top of having an outside-of-the-box way of looking at any given situation or mystery. Packaged with her well-meaning nature and having our best interests at heart, and you have a very endearing character that's fun to spend time with. I do admittedly have to ask the question that if Kuremi was a balding middle-aged man, like if you put Kabayashi in that role, would it all still come across as charming? Look man, they knew what they were doing when they designed her. Who wouldn't look forward to coming home to this at the end of a long day? When she first showed up with her car, she could have been a kidnapper for all I knew, and yet I was in the back of that car so fast. I happily became a statistic. Chapter 2, Search for the Father, Yuko Yamashina. Welcome to Nakano. The first assignment Kuremi gives us is to explore the Nakano shopping mall and familiarize ourselves with it, as it's where the Kuremi Detective Agency operates out of. So we'll be spending all of our time here, and we also need to pick up some coffee beans along the way. But first, quick drip check. Yeah, okay. The Nakano Broadway is a real place in Tokyo, funny enough. A lot of the places we'll visit at various points in the game are. First stop, Mirai has a fortune telling shop here, so we have easy access to the Digilab. She also gives us a special glove which, oops, it doesn't show on the outfit that I'm wearing, so
You gotta believe that it's there.
it lets you bring items into cyberspace with you, only possible because the boundary between the digital world and real world are becoming thinner. It's just an explanation for how in gameplay we can buy healing items and whatnot in the real world and use them while in cyberspace and in combat. We can also use her as a guide if we're ever confused as to where to go next. She'll point us in the right direction. The characters stood outside will offer us DLC items, but I'm not going to be using those since they're kind of game breakers honestly, and I just don't like playing games that way. Okay, what can be said about the Nakano Broadway? It's a humble setting, I think. 4 stories tall with each floor split into 2 zones. It's not large at all and the shops are just here as flavor dressing, as you won't be making any use of them besides one spot to buy items, the medal collector where you can just sell here medals that you pick up off the map, or from gacha machines, and you've got the virtual arena. But Nakano is definitely dripping with personality as the NPCs do have a lot of life in them. Like the dynamic between the cafe owner and his employee, where the gag is that she's constantly accusing him of sexual harassment, thus demanding a pay increase. He looks so innocent, bless him. Nakano is also the only location where there's no music playing, just the sounds of your echoing footsteps and doors opening. It creates a bit of a weary atmosphere and I think it's somewhat intentional. A lot of the cases you'll be taking will have you investigating some sort of urban myth or supernatural phenomenon, which will usually be the result of a Digimon misbehaving in cyberspace. Usually. Sometimes it is straight up paranormal activity. This game has a lot of fun playing around with folklore and mythology. Whenever someone comes to us with a bizarre case, Kyoko always references how the scenario sounds similar to some sort of ancient legend. If a sudden blizzard were to occur, she would straight up blame a Wendigo. Anyway, my whole point being, the game will try to creep you out at times. In terms of the gameplay loop, you will need to fulfill a certain amount of cases before the story moves forward. Some are story relevant, some aren't, and we've got 20 chapters to get through. So for the sake of brevity, I'll definitely be skipping a lot of the cases. I'll only be bringing up the non-story relevant cases if I think they're interesting enough. A lot of the cases are like Yakuza sub-stories, they're just fun little vignettes to experience. So don't let the little amount of cases I do decide to talk about be indicative of the amount of content that the game has. My save file netted 45 hours and I wasn't even close to 100%ing everything. Oh, it's Nokia. Cool. Nice to see you're a regular here. Upon returning, Kyoko says that she explained the situation to her mother and we give her a call. Initially we were meant to move overseas with her as she had to move for work, but all Kyoko mentioned was that we got into an accident and that she's looking after us while we help out with work. So Mother Dearest is happy for us to stay with Kyoko for the time being so long as we look after our health. We're also allowed to skip school as our work with Kyoko comes under extra credit. Oh, that's amazing. I get to skip school, get paid, live with a sexy wait, do we live here? I mean, we rest here, but We also walk around Shinjuku to make sure nobody is still talking about the incident from earlier. This is where we run into Arata, who's grateful to see that we made it out okay. And we're also introduced to our school friends Ryoto and Sakura, who'll be minor recurring characters. Sakura is especially into a rock star named Jimiken. This will be on the test later, so pay attention. Since our Eden account is now compromised, Kyoko sets us up with a new one to use temporarily in the meantime, and in comes a client. Funny enough, the shy girl we met at the hospital. This is Yuko and she's looking for her father. He seems to have gone missing, but his Eden account is still active, so he must be somewhere on Eden. She'd like us to track him down. She doesn't want to give us her contact information, saying that she'll just drop by later. Kyoko figures that his account may have been hacked. We ask around Eden and the general consensus is that Zaxxon probably raided his account, as a former member gives us the URL to the Zaxxon forum, where we managed to obtain a Zaxxon mask along with a lead that we should head to Kowloon level 2. We managed to get past a lot of the Zaxxon members that tried to gatekeep certain areas by pretending to be one of them, hence the mask. As it turns out, Zaxxon like to steal accounts and then sell them to this Mephisto fellow. We tried to ask him about the account that we're after, but he just ends up going berserk. As it turns out, his account is possessed by a Digimon, resulting in a boss fight. Upon defeating it, it turns out that it did in fact have the account we were looking for. When Kyoko looks at the data, she realizes that our client Yuko has a different name to the daughter listed on his records, but we get the location of his address and visit his house. Turns out he's living a normal life with his daughter, unaware that his account was even hacked. So if here he is, alive and well with his daughter, who the hell is our client and why the ruse? Though when she returns for an update, Kyoko doesn't address it. She just tells her that he safely got his account back and that he's just chilling. Our protagonist wants to point out that there's clearly still something wrong here, but as Yuko's leaving, Kyoko says that she can come here anytime she likes, and that next time she should feel free to use her real name, Yuko Kamishiro. Oh, that's so delicious. Back when we met Yuko in the first chapter, you could easily tell that she had a link to Kamishiro Enterprises, but flat out being a blood relation is a whole nother story. On top of that, yeah, she comes across as quite naive, clearly on the side of Kamishiro Enterprises, but also a lot more shrewd than she lets on. She helped us hide from Kishibe, and she knew that Zaxxon were up to no good with the account raiding, but had no way to directly address it. Meaning she has a good heart, but doesn't have as much sway in the company despite her name. She's operating alone. But to what end, we won't know for a while, but I think it's an excellent tone to start the game on. If the title of the game didn't give it away, this is a story that's heavily influenced by old school Sherlock Holmes and Lupin novels. There's constant references and direct quotes. Kyoto always refers to us as her dear Watson, and how some of the mysteries that the game presents are never directly answered, but you're often given enough context clues to put the pieces together yourself, which I'll be delving into a lot more later on. For now, let's delve into some more cases. There's a mysterious hacker only known as Digital Face. He announces his crimes before he does them, causing a lot of embarrassment to the force, and since Matayoshi is in charge of cybercrimes, this is reflecting poorly on him as he's getting a lot of flack from the higher ups. Kyoko wants us to help Matayoshi figure out Digital Face's identity, covertly, without him realizing. We ask around Kowloon, and the chill hacker says that Digital Face hates cops and is most likely in Shinjuku. Along the way we bump into Matayoshi and give him the clue we just received while playing ignorant. At Shinjuku, a police officer tells us that there's a man who hates cops nearby. We chase the man down into Kowloon and fight him alongside his Digimon, only to later realize we were led on a wild goose chase, as the police officer that gave us the hint was actually Digital Face all along, which Matayoshi had managed to piece together on his own. When we report this to Kyoko, she ends up having a newfound respect for him, and I do like that. It's nice that Matayoshi isn't treated like this out of touch incompetent old codger that we need to bail out. He's damn good at what he does. The final case worth mentioning here is that the AC is busted, only blasting out cold air within the Broadway. As we take a look at it, we get this strange broadcast of a dreary looking girl. The K-Cafe owner says there was a central cooling unit under Nakano housing a supercomputer. I swear, every time I say Nakano, I'm this close to saying Nanako.
Every day's great at your Junas.
Kyoko recognizes the girl as an idol from the 80s, and she's just loving how bizarre this is. What does a broken AC have to do with an 80s idol? Let's jack into the supercomputer and find out. Inside, we encounter a rampaging Frigimon. Once he's subdued, we find a Wanyamon with amnesia who was stuck in the system with Frigimon. Wanyamon had access to the data on the computer, found data on the idol, and figured broadcasting a cute girl would be a great beacon for help. Wanyamon is essentially a time capsule of human memory from when the computer was built, and Frigimon had gotten inside from the extra systems that were built over the old one. Cool concept. This is only really relevant to talk about because this Wanyamon is going to be a recurring character. Okay, Chapter 3, Digital Monster. The beginning of this chapter got a chuckle out of me. Nokia asks to meet up with us because she wants our help on something, but Kyoko has something to say about that, stating that her assistant is a professional trying to earn an honest living. Therefore, no handouts. If Nokia wants my help, she's paying. I fuck with this mindset. If you're good at something, never do it for free. Anyway, Nokia wants us to help her search for Agumon and Gabumon. She says she'll be waiting in Kowloon. On arrival, we find her getting harassed by Zaxxon hackers in another comedic scene. Nokia, as well as the scene, frames it as if they're trying to flirt with her by being after her goods and stealing her virtue, but they're actually talking about wanting to raid her account. Easily dispatched of anyway. Further on in, a hacker blocks our path and refuses to move until he can figure out how to get a girlfriend. This leads to a massive deviation as we need to ask around for a satisfying answer to give the hacker. It's the one time the keyword mechanic actually gets a bit interesting and creative.
What would you do if I couldn't cook?
You'd be single.
Can you cook?
That's irrelevant.
No. Can you cook though?
I mean, can you fight? Let's ask pointless questions.
How is it a pointless question? I'm trying to get to know you.
Because that's your job.
What's my job?
To make sandwiches.
But no, of course the answer is Digimon. What, are you stupid? Nokia calls back to when Agumon and Gabumon said she smells familiar and she gets a nostalgic feeling whenever they're around. And speaking of the devils, we find the two being harassed by some hackers. And this time they do actually try to flirt with Nokia.
Yeah! I am Jimmy Cat! Yeah!
Enter Jimmy Ken. You know how I mentioned him once earlier? He's actually mentioned a lot up until this point by numerous characters as this big time rock star, and when he finally appears, he's cringier than I am. And Nokia's responses are just the icing on the cake. She's just so heartbroken.
An important lesson. You can't count on anyone, especially your heroes.
Not because he's a member of Zaxxon, but because of how lame he is. He wants the two Digimon for himself. Nokia acts as if she's about to step up and protect them, but then pushes us in front of her to deal with him. He puts up a decent fight honestly, but then enter Yugo, who reprimands Jimmy Ken and effectively kicks him out of Zaxxon before taking his leave. Though not before his number 2, Faye disrespects and teases Nokia a bit as she mocks her attachment to programs. Nokia and the two Digimon are happy to see each other safe as she then questions why she does find herself caring about programs, though Agumon and Gabumon laugh at the idea of being programs made by humans. They're very much alive as we are. They just come from a different world, the digital world, and our world come together from time to time. Hence so many lost Digimon wandering around in cyberspace, as this is just how the digital world manifests when overlapping with ours. Though Agumon and Gabumon aren't lost, they specifically came here for a reason, but can't remember why. So until they can remember, Nokia takes them in, ending the chapter. A relatively short one, but pushes the story forward enough and plants more seeds for future story beats. This chapter is also where the Digiline mechanic starts becoming more prominent as you have more contacts at this point. Throughout the game you'll randomly get messages from various people you've interacted with like Kyoko, Matayoshi, Ryota, Sakura, even the Digimon you train and recruit. And this is the only way you'll ever interact with your mum. It's all for flavor text, but I will bring these up every so often just because I do find the exchanges with your mother to be very wholesome. And I guess Ryota and Sakura's little side story is kind of cute too. Chapter 4, the Shinjuku Underground Labyrinth Incident. Kuremi says that apparently something's going down in Shinjuku. We also get some messages from Ryota saying that Sakura's been acting strange lately, while Sakura just sends us Jimmy Ken lyrics. There's no escape. The subway station is going through a metamorphosis, which the game will dub a digital shift. Arata's also here, though our discussion with him is cut off as our arrest-happy cop Mikako Date recognizes Arata from somewhere but can't quite put a finger on it, causing Arata to flee into the digital shift, dragging us with him. Inside is a fusion of cyberspace and the subway. Naturally, as the sleuthiest sleuth that we are, we're compelled to explore further. Arata's excited because he wants to see how much better he's gotten, equipped with a stronger Digimon this time round. We vow to defeat the thing that attacked us before if it crosses our paths again. He's been itching for the opportunity for a rematch as he still feels some type of way about the fact that his first instinct was to escape ahead of us, and how impressed he is with my new role as a Cyber Sleuth, right as another brief flash of 5 kids appears again, along with the ghost of what looks like Yugo. All the people caught up in this space are frozen in place, unresponsive. Pressing onwards, we realize that we're being followed by probably the most evil looking scientist known to man, Akemi Suedo, a Kamishiwa researcher that can pinpoint when digital shifts are about to occur, and has been monitoring them for the sake of investigating them. Typical of crafty and mad scientist stuff, but he does share his findings with us. This is also where we're introduced to the concept of digital waves. Waves that carry data. Essentially it's Wi-Fi, it's this world's version of Wi-Fi. However, lately some digital waves have grown unstable and irregular, which can cause a digital shift, which is what we're seeing now. During a digital shift, part of the real world becomes cyberspace and everything becomes data, even thoughts. The thing we encountered at the start of the game is called an eater. Eaters eat data and exist within cyberspace. The ghost of the pale boy appearing is an indication that an eater is nearby. Defeating it should restore the space. So far, that's that. Making more progress, the ghost appears again as we braced for battle and we managed to defeat the eater, restoring the subway to find Mikako waiting to arrest us. And naturally, we have to run. We brief Kyoko on everything we experienced. She says that she's noticed that digital waves are growing unstable throughout Tokyo, For now, she'll refer to the spaces created by digital shifts as labyrinths, before she goes into a whole geek spiel about where the origins of the word came from, even referring to them as parallel worlds, which triggers us to mention the digital world that Agumon and Gabumon mentioned prior, with her taking a keen interest in the term herself, but we put a pin in the topic for now, concluding with coffee. Seaweed and yogurt coffee. You'll never be forgiven for this, Kyoko. We decide to check out Shibuya, its famous landmarks like the Lodge Crossing and Shibuya Records. I honestly didn't realize how big of a deal this place was until a friend of mine actually went there and posted a picture. We run into this pitiful girl that vanishes the moment we speak to her. I love how as soon as this happens, the protagonist's first instinct is to check if there's a new case. The occult club want to perform a ritual at the Shibuya Crossing just to check the validity of the rumor that if 5 people sing a particular song while walking to the center, a dead person will come back to life. The reason that they came to us for help is because there's rumors going around that our detective agency dabbles into the occult. Kyoko is slightly offended, but they're technically not wrong. But anyway, we all head to Shibuya and do the ritual. This weirdly reminds me of the beginning of Persona. Once the ritual is performed, everyone in Shibuya mysteriously vanishes. Oh, hang on. Otamon is at max level. Nice. It's eerie and this pitiful girl from earlier appears and disappears again. But after some time, Shibuya returns to normal. When reviewing the footage, it turns out we all just froze in place for a period of time, while Shibuya was running as normal, meaning everything we saw was a strange hallucination, except for the fact that the pitiful girl also appears in the footage. She was hit by a car and died months ago, but the fact that she appears in this footage means that we succeeded in resurrecting her, and that's that. The case just ends on that creepy note. That's the sort of thing I was talking about before, where this game will just throw creepy scenarios at you. Followed up by another case from the occult club, but just Manaka this time. Her thoughts are appearing on her digiline while she sleeps, almost like diary entries. It appears that someone hacked her memory data on Eden and is now taunting her with it. Concepts like that freak the fuck out of me. It's like that one Black Mirror episode. You know the one. We can't trace the data as it seems to be hidden, but that's where Pete comes in. The Wanyamon from 2 chapters ago. Why did Kyoko name him Pete? Because it's just a normal pet name, why are you overthinking it? That's essentially what her reply is. Anyway, he can sniff out Digimon related data so we can use him to trace the signal. If I'm Watson, he's the boy wonder. Again, his words. We track it down to this kid. So the Baku Reborn service is a program responsible for encrypting, hiding and deleting data, such as memory data, so that people can't access it. He runs it, but reverse engineered it so that he can shroud his presence. But now it's evolved beyond his control and it wound up merging with a Digimon, which we have to dispatch. Once dealt with, the kid apologizes to Manaka without really giving a reason as to why he was taunting her in the first place. But Kyoko was quick to deduce that he had a crush on her and just wanted to get her attention. After a hard day's work, we pick up some coffee beans and spot Yuko salivating over the poster for a gourmet battle, though when she spots us she runs away. That's gonna be Yuko's gimmick, how she tries to maintain an air of dignity but is the biggest food junkie going. We return to the agency to find Yuko sat in the client seat, and the protagonist is kind of funny here, not gonna lie. Chapter 5. The search continues. Yuko Kamishiro. Yuko comes clear with her intentions. Her father's death was reported as a suicide last year, but Yuko refuses to believe that her father would do such a thing, so she wants us to look further into it. Kyoko deduces that the case from before was her way of testing our capabilities. Yamashina left the company around the same time as her father's death, so that's where she'd like us to start with our investigation. Though Yuko then has to leave in a hurry as she gets a phone call from Miss Rikishibe. From what we've seen so far, it's clear to see that Miss Rikishibe keeps her on a leash, and based on what I explained before about Kishibe, you can tell that she plays the role of a ditzy and motherly figure towards Yuko, but it's easy to see that she just wants to keep an eye on her. A sense of control and dominance. We return to Yamashina's apartment to ask him some questions, but his memory seems hazy, so we decide to look for his daughter Chika. Oh, it's Victory Uchida. Oh hey twin. Victory Uchida is somewhat of a Digimon brand ambassador. He's just a fun little Easter egg character that appears in several games. Finding him will net you some bonus items as all. Chika's kind of annoyed by our presence but answers us nonetheless. She doesn't know much, just the fact that he worked for the Now Corporation prior to working for Kamishiro. Returning to the agency, Matayoshi is also here. He and Kyoko are familiar with the name Now Corporation. Kyoko's father and Matayoshi looked into them a while back as Kamishiro had absorbed them, but there were suspicions of them doing so through illicit means, though Matayoshi and her father were forced to abandon their investigation by the higher-ups. Matayoshi speculates that the files from their investigation are stored in the Avalon server, Kamishiro's most secure server, and Yuko arrives right on schedule as we form a plan to retrieve the files. Mirai managed to rework the Baku program from the last chapter so that we can use it to turn invisible. So the plan is for Yuko to get us into the main lobby, as nobody will deem us as suspicious so long as we're with her. And from there we'll use the Baku program to sneak around and find a spot for us to digijump into. Yuko is so awkward when she tries to put on a ruse of forcing playful banter with us as friends would do while we're at the lobby to avoid any suspicion. But we tell her to just be herself, that's all friends really want from each other at the end of the day. Paints a picture of what Yuko's life must be like, honestly. Matayoshi also sends us a message apologizing about the fact that he's pushing such a dangerous job onto us and gives us words of encouragement. The more I see of Matayoshi is the more he grows on me. We connect jump into the Avalon server, and while we're exploring it we cut back to one of the managers asking Yuko where we disappeared to. She thinks up a lie about us playing hide and seek and puts her foot down on it, convincing him to leave her alone. Kyoko calls in saying that Yuko's pretty good at deception and quick thinking, questioning where she would have picked up such skills, only to then realize that someone is eavesdropping on their conversation. Someone must have placed a wiretap on Yuko's digivice in the real world. Most likely Miss Rikishibe. Kyoko tells Yuko that they need to cut contact and that Yuko needs to get out. But what does that mean for me? Well, Kyoko has faith in us to manage. We grab the data that we need only to be ambushed by... okay, this part kind of annoyed me. So these characters are wearing the Zaxxon emblem, but they aren't actually Zaxxon members. They're part of another group called the Demon Hackers, which was formed by Jimmy-Ken after Yugo kicked him out. It's not conveyed very well at this point because this game has a tendency to reuse a lot of character models. I've neglected to comment on the fact that this game was clearly made on a budget, like it clearly does show at times, but I didn't really care up until this scene confused me. Because I thought that this was still just members of Zaxxon operating behind Yugo's back, but it's not until later that it becomes more clear. Anywho, Kamishiro hired the Demon Hackers as security for the Avalon server. Before we engage, Yugo appears demanding an explanation as to what they're doing here, but then Jimmy-Ken appears challenging us to another fight. We stomp him and leave him to find Yuko still waiting for us. Back at the agency, we discover that there was another lead researcher at the Now Corporation alongside Yamashina named Akemi Suedo, who's now one of the architects of Eden. Matayoshi will look over the files, so we leave them in his hands for the time being. Following up on that, Mikako Date shows up asking for help with an investigation, in her own charming Date way.
あんたら、又吉さんの捜査手伝ってんだろ？ってことは当然、私の捜査も手伝ってくれんだよな。な。
Since Kyoko doesn't want to deal with her, she playfully pawns her onto me. Thanks, Kyoko. Ending the chapter. All I really have to say about this one is that we've got some nice character work for Yuko and Matayoshi. Our first relatively large-scale operation, the first of many, I assure you, and more progression to the overall mystery. Chapter 6: Serial Disappearances in Akihabara. Nearly 10 people from Akihabara have gone missing in 2 months, so we go and ask around. This kid's reaction to stepping into Akihabara is probably how I'd react, honestly. This one guy says he has a lead on what's going on, but in order to get the info, we need to help him ask out his crush. Though speaking to her reveals that he's just a stalker. So we return and intimidate him into telling us to go to the Komimami forum, a forum full of otaku. Turns out the people going missing are all members of this forum. This girl approaches us saying that she has a hunch that the culprit is one of their members and that we should meet her at the bookstore. Just as we're about to leave, we bump into Arata of all people, and he's so embarrassed to be caught here. He bounces the question back at us when asked what he's doing here, and as soon as we tell him that we're working on a case connected to this forum, he's just all in. Look at you, you absolute dweeb. He doesn't come with us to the bookstore though, instead he goes straight to the agency. The girl says that someone uploaded an original comic onto the forum, but lots of people left me in comments. These people were the first to go missing. The comic along with the comments were all deleted, but Arata restores the data, tracing it back to Kowloon. Once there, we do battle with Wisemon, who escapes, but Arata is able to trace the user data to the internet cafe in Akihabara. What's waiting for us there is a digital shift, meaning there's an Ita here. The girl that gave us the clue is also stuck inside, with Arata showing genuine anger as he actually knows her. I mean, yeah, you should be able to figure out that Arata was already invested in the situation, as he's a member of the forums. Look at you, you dweeb. Suedo is also here, of course. Is that the florist that the guy from earlier was stalking? Well, yeah, the stalker's here too, so... But yeah, the florist is here and she's gone berserk, as Wisemon has overridden her mental data. So it's round 2, only he's a lot bigger now, followed by an Eater. Once back in the real world, Arata questions if it's possible to take back data that's been consumed by Eaters. If not, there may be no cure for Eden syndrome. I'm just gonna pretend I didn't hear that. It's not like he knows I have Eden syndrome at the end of the day. Back at the agency, Kyoko questions the nature of Digimon and humans strengthening each other's emotions to such a degree. In this game, for the first 10 chapters or so until we get the big twist that breaks the formula, Digimon are playing the roles of demons, shadows, banetides, just some otherworldly entity that feeds on emotion and insecurities. We see this all the time in anime and JRPGs. Cyber Sleuth adds a cool layer to it by primarily focusing on the digital age and the issues that arise with that, at least on a personal level. While at first I wanted to say that nowadays the internet is much less Wild Westy than it was in say 2008 when I was growing up, but thinking on it more I realized that's just not true. It's just that as you get older you have the sense to stick to your little niche corner and be happy with that. It'll be interesting to see when I have kids and what the internet will be like for them. There's a comedic side quest where Ryota puts in a request to help him find a job since he wants to buy a gift for Sakura. Ah, my young king, I'll help anyone in the pursuit of love. This next case will be important for later, so pay attention. The local government wants us to unlock the door at Nakano Underpass that locked due to a weird glitch. Naturally it should be as easy as just a quick connection jump, but it doesn't work for a while. Then it does. We unlock the door to find a semi-pseudo digital shift, but not quite. According to Kyoko, this is a ley line. So if you're unfamiliar with ley lines as a concept, Kyoko breaks it down in extreme detail, but my abridged version is, there are some philosophers and archaeologists that believe every spiritual site like churches, monuments, temples, what have you, are all connected by spiritual waypoints spread across the globe, ley lines, where spiritual energy flows at its strongest throughout the earth. It's a concept you see a lot in stories that dabble in spirituality, and I find the concept fascinating. It runs a lot deeper and more complex than what I described, but I'm sure you guys can only tolerate my waffling for so long. For now, just know, ley lines make it easier for digital waves to flow through, this being the result. This ley line in particular seems to stem from Mount Fuji, but where does it lead? Kyoko's curiosity gets the better of her as she urges us to take a peek ahead. Getting far enough, we reach government territory. It's a Kamishiro research lab, underneath the Tokyo Metropolitan Office, meaning Kamishiro and the government are in bed together. We surmise that it was probably Kamishiro that changed the password on the lock, wanting to keep the government out of their business. But that's not something we can just come out with in conjecture, and that makes Kamishiro even more dangerous to tangle with. For now, the best thing to do is to sit on the information. But that doesn't mean we can't poke around inside the actual Metropolitan Office. Inside we did jump into a terminal and discover an Eater. This means that digital waves are flowing into the Metropolitan building through the ley line. My natural conclusion was that someone at Kamishiro is manipulating the digital waves, but for what purpose, we'll have to wait and see. Chapter 7, Demon Pilgrimage Capriccio. Sakura's mother is our next client as Sakura has run away from home. Prior to her disappearing, she'd been acting very strangely. She'd sit in her room watching the same music video over and over again in the dark. I think at that point I'd call an exorcist, darling. Of course it's a Jimmy Ken music video. Considering Ryota had mentioned this a while back and we kept getting messages from her containing Jimmy Ken lyrics, this was definitely a long time coming. But this isn't like any old YouTube video or anything like that. It's a large-scale airwave hacking. So he has to be backed by a particularly large sponsor. Considering that we bumped into him and the demon hackers in Kamishiro's servers, naturally we will assume Kamishiro's using him to cause a distraction. For what purpose? Well, the priority for now is for us to crash this broadcast as it contains subliminal messages. While Kyoko comforts Sakura's mother, Matayoshi confides in us about how Kamishiro is responsible for Kyoko's father's death, so her beef with them is personal. And you know what? That makes it personal for me too. We find Ryota, who tells us that a bunch of Jimmy Ken fans went away for the evil pilgrimage. especially events where a few fans get to meet Jimmy-Ken. Yo, that is some cult sounding shit. Nokia catches wind of this and joins us on our crusade alongside Agumon and Gabumon. 1, because Sakura is her friend, and 2, she just has a rage burner against Jimmy-Ken. The signal's coming from somewhere in Kowloon, so that's where we'll go. Once there, we find Ryota getting ganged up on by demons. We get another repeat where Nokia acts like she's gonna do something, but pushes dealing with the hackers onto us, with Agumon and Gabumon rightfully scolding her for, as that's not what friends do. This is gonna be development, trust me. Dealing with the hackers, Ryota had managed to get his hands on the URL for the demon's hideout, followed by a comedic death scene right out of South Park.
ちょいと無茶しちまった。アカウントがボロボロけど、俺のことあとは任せた。
ねえミキヤ、どうし
それはね、彼らが思春期真っ只中だからよ。
思春期真っ只中？
青春一直線とも呼ばれているわ。
We break into the hideout and Nokia smashes his camera and actually gears up for combat, telling Agumon and Gabumon that they're gonna save her friend. And she actually joins us in a boss fight against Jimmy-Ken. Once he's dealt with, Yugo and Faye appear to clean up and crush the rest of the demons. Faye and Nokia also get antagonistic with each other again, as Faye just sees Digimon as tools to use. As for the first time, we play as Nokia in a boss fight against Faye. Even though, yeah, it's hopeless. Yugo separates the two, apologizing for not responding to the situation sooner. Apparently, it was Kishibe that pushed Jimmy-Ken to use the technology to draw a bigger crowd for himself, but that's it. Everything Jimmy-Ken did was on his own. All she did was plant the seed in his head. So there's not much we could really do from this point to prove Kamishiro's involvement. All we can do is wait for their next move. Afterwards, Nokia has a little heart-to-heart with us. Seeing how hackers mistreat Digimon has pissed her off. She's done sitting on the sidelines and being useless. The fact that she couldn't even scratch Faye was enough of a reality check to strengthen her resolve. She wants to be more like us, so she's gonna work hard to improve. Woo! Development! And I think it's a lot more gradual and subtle than you may think. Remember, Nokia for the most part is self-absorbed. She only took interest in Agumon and Gabumon because she found them cute, so it plays on that part of her personality. But through various antagonistic forces like other hackers, as well as being scolded by her two Digimon, and our impact on things, she starts to form a belief system beyond the superficial surface level. Nokia's development will push on a little more, and will work in tandem with two of the characters, but we'll get there. We get a comedic side plot where a food critic wants us to sample restaurants in Nakano. Arata and Nokia come along as it's all expenses paid. We don't know who the critic is, but from a viewer perspective, it's strongly implied to be Yuko. Now for the chapter's end. Why did Kishibe need Jimmy-Ken to cause such a fuss and draw attention to himself? Kishibe launches a broadcast where she states that it only recently came to her attention that Nile was taken over illegally by older members of Kamishiro, and so she fired all the ones involved and will now take over as CEO. How did that meeting go exactly? Anyway, there'll also be a new update to Eden, with a demo launching soon, ending the broadcast there. Matayoshi says that the police force were preparing a raid with the information from the files we stolen from a few chapters ago. Kishibe obviously caught wind of this and got in front of it, rendering all our efforts up until now to be fruitless, and accelerating their plans, wherever they may be. And that's where the chapter ends. I love me a delicious cliffhanger. Chapter 8. No Stopping the Gale Girls. While Kyoko and Matayoshi are discussing the correct way to proceed, Nyoka invites me and Arata to the cafe to get something off her chest. She wants to form a Digimon tamer group to punish evil hackers that misuse Digimon. She brings up the fact that there used to be another big hacker group named Jude, which once stood toe-to-toe with Zaxxon but disbanded for unknown reasons. But according to rumors, they never mistreated Digimon. So she's thinking of tracking down and recruiting old Jude members. Arata's completely against it, saying he's too busy investigating Eden syndrome to engage in her delusional fantasies, and leaves. Bumping into Yuko outside, who was eavesdropping on the conversation. She intended to come and speak to us about something, but loses her nerve and does a U-turn. Ignoring that, we head to Kowloon with Nokia, where we're intercepted by Yugo, who says that the person to unite the hackers of Eden isn't her, it's him. Then he leaves. He really doesn't know who he's dealing with. Tell Nokia she can't do something and she'll double down. Even deciding to call her tamer group the Rebels, When speaking to various former Jude members, Nokia is just so straightforward about her ideals that it actually wins some of them over, as I can only guess that she reminds them of how they used to be before whatever took place that caused any cynicism to kick in. With some of them, it's a matter of showing them our strength in combat. Of course, the bonds with your Digimon have proven your resolve. Yugo's been watching from afar and speaks to me privately. He commends her efforts but says that if she ever has to face off against truly evil hackers, he wants us to step in and protect her. Yugo, you big ol' softy. We leave Nokia to it and make ways to meet up with Arata, as he also has something he wants to discuss with us. But first, Mom wants to know if I have any idea about what I want to do with my future. Honestly, Mum, SoundCloud rapper. The mystery surrounding Eden Syndrome is bothering him, so he tracked down Suedo. All Suedo really says is that it seems as though someone is forcing the digital shifts to occur. I wonder who would do such a thing. Since it wasn't that long ago that the digital shift occurred here, there may still be some remnants around. We take a look and I stumble onto a special connection separate from Eden. Digi jumping into it, I end up in Asakusa. Arata catches up to us questioning what the hell we just did, and that's when we tell him about Eden Syndrome. He apologizes profusely as he feels responsible, and doubles down even more on finding a cure. Just then, a digital shift occurs. Turns out we managed to home in on the direction the digital waves were moving, though the people are actually unfrozen this time. The sales clerk does make me laugh. She's like, yeah, it's an emergency, but capitalism will live forever. We find the eater consuming people and it evolves. Soedo says the eater adapts into what it consumes, kind of like Majin Buu. Man, I haven't played the Dragon Ball game in ages. I've been so tempted to play Heroes World Mission. We deal with the Eater and shut down the shift. Arata says he's gonna think of a way to infiltrate Kamishiro to find out more info. We also get a case from the Occult Club again. Okay, this case gets kind of dark and twisted. This one had me like, damn, you guys really didn't make this game for kids. So get this, life-size dolls that are exact copies of Mei and Lily are being sold online. In Akihabara, there's a living doll club machine which you can use to make a 3D print of yourself. Kyoko wonders if that data is then taken and used to sell a lifelike doll on the black market. We head to Akihabara to check the place out for ourselves. The man actually tries to sell us a doll of Nokia, even saying, yeah, I know this one's a bit ugly. We turn him down and he then asks if we're interested in the Perfect Girl project. We turn him down again, and connect jump into the machine where we find a wild Infomon. We deal with it and destroy the machine, but we then get a URL from it. The salesman doesn't seem to care as he's already made enough money and bolts off. We follow the URL and it takes us to this room with this guy surrounded by a bunch of girls. He says that he signed up for the Perfect Girl project where they send you the girl of your dreams to live with you, and in exchange, you can't leave your room. When we try to explain to him that he's not actually in his room, he's in Eden, he doesn't believe us and says we're bonkers. We leave him be and report back to Kyoko and our clients. When Lily questions what happens to the person's body while they're in Eden, Kyoko states that this boy that we found in Eden has been missing for a while, meaning while his mental data is in Eden, thinking he's living his dream life, his body is God knows where, most likely shipped abroad being experimented on. Kyoko's exact words. We tried to send him a message telling him he needs to log out, but when he tries, there's nowhere for his mental data to go, so he's stuck there forever, confirming Kyoko's theory. And what do you mean the case is closed? No, go back! So yeah, we've got 3D prints of girls being sold to guys for you know what, and on top of that, you've also got guys' minds being stuck in cyberspace while their bodies disappear. You know, I hadn't played this game in like 8 years, but I remembered this case. But I remember thinking at the time, surely I misread or misunderstood something. But no, it's literally as I described, and that's how it ends. Bro's just doomed to be there for all eternity, and we just move on. Then again, maybe for some, this is heaven, but still morbid. And it's the only case that ever really gets this dark. Following up with extreme mood whiplash, we follow Arata on this escapade to get a really rare comic where we have to gather clues by answering the most specific questions. It's the equivalent of like, what manga chapter and panel did Naruto first use the Rasengan? The kind of extreme trivial shit that only the dorkiest of dorks would know. So of course Arata gets them all correct. Time for the infiltration plan to steal all of Kamishiro's info. The plan is for Yuko to get us inside the conference hall. While there, I connect jump and get as deep into the server as possible. Then we send Arata the invitation link to hack into the secret room where all the data is stored. Yuko also asks if we can get data on her father's suicide. though anything regarding the history of Eden and its creation is locked inside the Valhalla server, and Arata is adamant that no hacker is capable of breaking into that, so we forget about it. What makes you so sure, Arata? Have you tried before? Is that why you're so obsessed with Eden Syndrome? Yeah, I'm starting to leak and blow my load a bit, I know. Chapter 9, Our Master Plan. This plays out like a heist movie. We've even got disguises and everything. We're unable to send the link, so let's take a look at security. We deal with the security Digimon and Arata's able to get inside. Okay, let's... Oh, hang on. Aw, Mom sent us cookies. Love you. Yuko sends us Kishibe's password to enter the secret room. While we search, there's a disturbance at the conference as it's flooded with eaters. Kishibe and Yuko have a Mexican standoff, with Kishibe telling her that if she doesn't stop snooping around, she may just forget to stop looking after her brother. When Yuko tries to ask what she's planning, she refuses to tell, but she should consider this her final warning to stop sneaking around behind her back. Kishibe then asks Suedo how the preparations are coming along and they step away. We've been watching this unfold from cyberspace, and Suedo shoots us a glance before they leave, letting us know that he knows that we're watching. The Eden server shut down, so there shouldn't be any more victims for the Eaters. The whole matter of Eaters getting into the conference and spoiling the event is reported to be the fault of hackers, though of course, we know that the Eaters getting in most likely was the intended purpose of the event. Within the data we uncovered, we find the Paradise Lost plan, but no details as to what that plan actually is, just that the digital shifts are a byproduct of the plan, and that Akemi Sudo is the man behind it. Whatever it is will be the big update that's due to come for Eden, and that there was a beta test 8 years ago before Eden's launch. One of the participants of the test became the first victim of Eden Syndrome, though this is when Yuko abruptly leaves the conversation. Arata pieces together that Yuko is most likely being blackmailed and probably won't be part of our operations anymore. Phew! I know that was a lot to take in, so let's slow down for a bit. Kishibe and Suedo are obviously up to something nefarious together, but they may not be on the same page. Suedo did notice us after all, but didn't snitch. He's also given us more info than necessary on a bunch of occasions, and most likely knows about our ability to cyberjump. Yet he keeps all this to himself. Not to mention, he came here from Null Corporation. He probably isn't very loyal to Kamishiro and Kishibe, since it was a hostile takeover that led to him working for them in the first place. While Kishibe has something over Yuko which forces her to be submissive, we're gonna get a lot of revelations in the following chapter, hence I'm biting my tongue. Let's check in with our wildcard Nokia. We get a quest from one of the rebels. For those that forgot, that's the name of Nokia's newly formed tamer group. He's in love with Nokia and wants us to look out for her. We sort of just watch her from afar as her and her group continue to recruit members. She has to deal with an especially antagonistic hacker, but once she solidifies her resolve, Agumon and Gabumon digivolve. Afterwards, Yugo wants to meet up. He wants us to end Nokia and the rebels. He wants to unite Eden under himself because he loves Eden. Sounding rather dictator-like there, my man. Going for a walk, he says that Eden was created for the mind to be free, a temporary escape from the hustle and bustle of life, and how he hates what it's now become. People like Nokia and her tamer group represent what Eden are supposed to be, so it should only be him and the irresponsible hackers that be put at risk when it comes to restoring Eden to what it once was, for people with pure intentions like Nokia. Our talk is interrupted as we get a call from a rebel member asking for help. Yugo and I defeat another hacker that's antagonizing him. Once he's saved, Yugo asked why he joined the rebels, with him responding that he likes Nokia because she's honest and straightforward. Yugo accepts that Nokia won't be backing down. When the time comes, they'll have to cross swords. At that moment, we have to promise him to keep Nokia safe. Oh, and we help Ryota pick flowers for Sakura. Okay, is everyone ready? Cause
it's about to go down.
Chapters 10 to 12 is where a lot of plot threads come to a close and branch off into new ones. The foundation of the game is about to change, and I can stop being coy about how I talk about things. While the first 9 chapters are slow, case of the week series of events, from this point on the story is gonna ramp up to where cases and even the Cyber Sleuth element of the game take a back seat. Those elements are still here, but fuck it, let's go, you know what I mean. Chapter 10, To the Promised Land.
この電脳世界の創造主が理想とした空間であり、今よりもはるかに自由で解放された場所であった。しかしそのアンダーゼロはエデン発足と同時に接収され、今では世界最高レベルのセキュリティが施され、アンダーゼロは我々の理想郷はエデン最古のサーバーバルハラサーバーの中にある。我々ハッカーの手でエデンに新たな秩序をもたらすためにこの監視と我々ザクソンは今より聖地アンダーゼロの奪還を宣言する。志を同じくする者がいるならば目指せアンダーゼロ。
Yugo addresses all hackers. The prototype for Eden, where a lot of the old guard of hackers began, was called Under Zero, but now it's locked away in Kamishiro's Valhalla server. It's time to take their home back and raid the Valhalla server. If there's one thing you'll see me gush over in a JRPG, it's a good raid. Or a siege. I hate the English language. Now the game's gonna rewind time just a bit. Nokia summons us to assist in training the rebels. Oh, I am ready for this. Goodbye Cyber Sleuth, hello Cyber Sergeant. I know it doesn't roll off the tongue as well, but I tried. Yugo arrives to give Nokia one final warning to not interfere with Zaxxon, and we see Yugo's broadcast from the perspective of Kishibe and Suedo, who are like, he's playing right into our hands. At the cafe with Arata and Nokia says the rebels want to join in on the raid. I just love how no matter how many times Yugo threatens her, she's just like, nah. Arata tries to talk her out of it because a holy land for hackers? That's stupid, it's stupid, that doesn't exist. It's just an outdated server, it's stupid, stop being so simple-minded and idealistic. But Nokia's Nokia, she goes anyway, and Arata immediately chases after her. I should probably follow. Catching up with Arata, Nokia and the rebels have already gotten inside, but something smells fishy. The Valhalla server is meant to be an impenetrable fortress. It may be possible for Zaxxon, but Nokia and the rebels shouldn't be able to break in so easily. It's possible that someone invited them inside. We need to get ahead of the game, so he opens up a shortcut. Making ways, Kyoko's message here is so strange when she says she understands that we're helping our friends but don't neglect the clients. And I'm just thinking, you know what's going on here, right? I thought you'd be all over this. Your dad died because of... Never mind. We catch up with Nokia, and Arata manages to veer Agumon and Gabumon off their path by tossing a piece of meat, keeping Nokia busy. He vows to stop Yugo and Zaxxon, and wants to keep her out of it. Aww, why am I genuinely loving my fictional mother? Yugo, we're here to stop you. Wait, are we? I mean, I know you are, but I don't know, I was just here for the vibes. But Arata reveals the truth. He was the leader of Judes. They tried to reclaim Under Zero, but they were attacked by something that erased their accounts, along with their morale. So he's here now to prevent everyone else from suffering the same fate, and he even brought backup in former Jude members, and we're about to throw down until Nokia shows up. It's a free-for-all, baby! We fight Yugo and Nokia fights Faye. We actually get to play as Nokia again too. Faye lets something slip here when she says that Yugo is her everything, and she'll protect her. Nokia gets whooped again but manages to get Agumon and Gabumon to digifuse into Omnimon, and her reaction is priceless. Yugo is visibly distressed, taking on mannerisms that almost don't even belong to him. Kishibe finally plays her hand and summons an armada of eaters which massacre everyone. Kyoko tunes in saying that someone sent a massive digital wave to our location, most likely Kishibe. The only way to stop the eaters coming through is to plug the hole, so we need to fend off the eaters' onslaught until Omnimon plugs it. Once that's taken care of, the ghost of the pale boy, the real Yugo, appears and drives the remaining eaters away, but then vanishes immediately, as our Yugo tries to call out to her brother. Yup, I'm saying her. And she's forced to log out, and I connect jump to give chase. We end up in this lab, but Kishibe manages to force us back. So Yugo was Yuko's Eden avatar the entire time. But whenever she'd log in to assume the role, Kishibe would often tamper with the machine, slowly erasing Yuko's own identity and awareness while she was doing so. In layman's terms, her personality would be overwritten, giving her a split identity. Kishibe did all this to lure everyone to Valhalla so that she could take all of their mental data, and now she's going to do something with it and to Yuko. We wake up back in our world just in time to avoid being isekai'd. Arata is rightfully pissed and vows to avenge all the fallen hackers, and Omnimon has his memories back, saying that there's a greater fight coming. While we wait for Kyoko to analyze all the data from the Avalon server, Omnimon says he needs to talk to us, ending the chapter. Okay, so let's talk about Arata's characterization thus far. He's going to be taken in a new direction from here on out, so let's summarize. Arata's bravado is such an obvious front that it's almost used as a punchline in most of the scenes that he's in. But what's been interesting to see is those walls slowly coming down the more time we spend with him. Because the guy lost the light in his eyes a long time ago when he tried to make his idealistic vision a reality when they tried to reclaim Under Zero, and here he sees his friend Nokia walking that same path, and he wants to shield her from confronting the harsh reality and having that same innocence ripped from her. He just doesn't know how to speak from the heart, until he has to. That's where we're at right now with his character. This story is going to have a lot of fun exploring the concept of dual identities and the fronts we put on. Heck, most of the characters don't even use their real names but their online aliases. A modern twist on the noir detective motif, but Arata's arc is juxtaposed alongside Yuko, who took on the persona of this charismatic leader in order to rally people to accomplish her goals, not wanting innocent people to get caught up in the crossfire of her crusade. But funny enough, it was that exact innocent, simplistic and straightforward worldview personified by Nokia that brings the walls crumbling down for both of these characters, too caught up in their own cynicism. It ties into my belief that while pragmatism is necessary, you don't get very far without being a little delusional. But in the end, in this plan to take back the Holy Land from God, unfortunately, all-knowing and too powerful, was miles ahead as all factions were simply dancing in the palm of his hand. Or in this case, hers. Chapter 11, Paradise Lost. We have some exposition from Omnimon here. The digital world has been falling prey to the Eaters for a long time and is on the brink of extinction. The digital world is ruled by King Drazil, and under him are the Royal Knights, which Omnimon is part of. The Eaters came from a cyberspace within our world, Eden. They're born from the mental data of humans, as human emotion is always wavering, intense, complex, and contrasting. Eaters are born from these combinations. And so the conclusion that King Drazil reached was to destroy the human world in order to save theirs. And so the digital shifts and Paradise Lost plan are to merge the gaps between worlds so that the Knights can come through and wage war on humanity. Kishibe is either working with the Knights or is being controlled by them. So Omnimon slipped through the wall by separating into Agumon and Gabumon, as he can't sit by and allow our world to be destroyed because there has to be a better solution. There are other Digimon that may have come through the same way, with even Nokia agreeing that there has to be a way that humans and Digimon can reach a conclusion together. Meeting back up at Kyoko's,
ったく岸辺を追い詰めるための作戦会議って聞いてきてみりゃ
それはこっちのセリフです。レジェンドとかどんだけあれこじらせてるんですか。そもそも何よ、アンダーゼロでも一人でいなくなってさ、あんたこそチーム戦向いてないんだから。
We determined that all the waves are flowing through a network of nodes underground Shinjuku, the underpass that we found before. They all flow to one spot, the Roppongi Research Center, which is where we ended up at the end of the last chapter when following Yuko's logout data. We need to disrupt that flow by mass hacking the weaker data nodes, which we'll leave to Arata and his friends, while our objective is to break in and rescue Yuko. Naturally, we end the strategy meeting with a Sun Tzu quote and begin the operation. Oh hey, it's Victor Uchida. Oh, I love this OST. We're also accompanied by Faye, who begs us to let her come with us. She knew the truth about Yugo all along. She surmises that Yuko had weak ties to her family, so when her older brother got hit by Eden syndrome, she used his avatar as a way to be with him and keep him alive. Faye's loyalty to Yuko comes from the fact that she gave her a place where she could be herself. We reach Kishibe and find out that she's not human. Meanwhile, while Arata is playing his part, he's approached by Soda, who reveals that he created Digimon Capture to foster people's desire so that they could put their goals to fruition. If Arata wants to know more of what he means, his door is always open to him when he's ready to talk, taking his leave. Crusademon, one of the royal knights, was using Kishibe's body as a vessel. She succeeds in opening the gate, as Digimon flood into the world. Not for a very long period though, as Arata and the others managed to close the huge gate, but long enough for there to be huge ramifications. Odds are, the Royal Knights made it through. Crusademon takes her leave in order to find and gather them up, after which a random eater gets to Yuko and fuses with the machine, going rampant. We face it in battle and attempt to jump into it. Faye wants to come too, but she's human, so that's not happening. But her Digimon talks to her saying that it'll go in her place, with Faye being absolutely baffled about the fact that her Digimon is able to act on its own.
もういいんです。今までやってきたこと全部が無駄だった。誰も戻ってこない。私の手には何もない。何をしてもトラに終わるならもういいんです。8年前、兄がエデン症候群になった。家に帰らず、エデンの開発に没頭する父の代わりに、私だけが兄の元に通った。いくら呼びかけても、兄は目覚めず、私は声をかけるのをやめた。父が死んで、私を励ましてくれたのが、リエさんだった。家族を失わない方法があるとリエさんは教えてくれた。父の作ったエデンを守るため遊具となってハッカーをまとめてほしいって一人きりで途方に暮れていた私にやるべきことを与えてくれた。だから私は私を捨ててユーゴになった。自分をなくしても家族とつながっていたかった。でも結局何もかも嘘だった。全部リエさんに仕組まれていた。ザクソンのみんなだって私についてきたんじゃない。私がエデンを守ってたわけじゃない。
すべてはリエさんの力。私は何もしていない。寂しい私、滑稽で惨めな私。どうして放っておいてくれないの？もう戻れない。いろんなことを間違えてしまったから。私が失敗したせいでエデンでまた犠牲を出してしまった。もう自分が何をしたかったのかもわからない。父も兄もみんな私の前からいなくなって、一人だって認めたくなかった。でも私はずっと前から一人だった。だからもう構わないで。私はもう一人ぼっちでいいんです。これは私がフェイにあげたデジモン？
優子、あなたは決して一人じゃない。あなたがフェイと私を出会わせてくれたから、私もフェイも一人じゃなくなった。あなたは私たちに居場所を与えてくれた。私はフェイの隣に、そしてフェイはあなたの隣に。思い出して。あなたの隣にはいつも誰かがいたはず。今も。
そうか、そうですよね。思い出しました。父の言葉。小さい頃、父が泣いてる私に言ってくれた。パパが作っているエデンでは一人ぼっちになる人なんていない。たとえ体は遠く離れていても、誰かが一人で泣いていたらすぐに手を差し伸べられる。そのためのエデン、そのための物理原則に縛られない電脳空間。
私たちは、フェイは今もあなたと共にいる。これからもずっと。
ノキアさんが言っていたこと、ようやく分かった気がします。ありがとうございました。友達を連れてきてくれて、私に手を差し伸べてくれて。私はこの奥にいます。お願いします。私をここから連れ出してください。もう一度あなたたちのそばに。
We manage to pull her out, although we get sucked into some dimensional rift and see a vision of children to then wake up in a vibrant forest, ending the chapter there. I love everything about this chapter. It's so short but brings out a lot of different emotions and thoughts in me. First off, I love the reveal that what was meant to be a new haven for humanity had to come at the destruction of another world. Obviously the Digimon would be angry and want revenge. It felt so cut and dry at first when it felt like it was just evil Japanese conglomerate doing the thing, but now it muddies the waters a little. Is there even room for diplomacy? Can't we all just get along? I feel like the themes brought up in the previous chapter, innocence and straightforwardness, as Nokia and Omnimon even state in this chapter, versus the cynicism and pragmatism. This is that, but brought to a more global and complex scale. Cause, let's be honest, mankind isn't known for... Let's just say those in power tend to believe in necessary evils. So even if Crusademon was to be like, hey, humans, you guys fucked us over, can we maybe do something about that? Humanity probably won't submit unless you overpower them. you know what I'm getting at. Bringing humanity to its knees is kind of the only solution. But maybe that's just my cynicism talking, isn't it? So maybe that's the point. I can't believe I'm having to think these things in a Digimon game. I think it's because I've been reading too much Nietzsche lately. This is also the first time we get any real insight into Yuko as a character. It feels like this is the first time we're truly meeting her, and it touched me. Along with the "nobody's going to be lonely in Eden, your daddy's going to create" quote, it had me thinking back to that old man NPC I spoke to earlier in the game, who said that in the real world his legs don't work, but in Eden he can walk for miles. Or how, growing up, my house didn't really have internet until I was like 10, and since I was an only child and wasn't really allowed out much since we lived in a bad neighborhood, even though I was able to entertain myself, I'd have my lonely moments. So when we finally got internet, it was a mind-blowing thing being able to talk with my school friends and other people, until obviously you learn the dark sides to it also. I know it's hard to get back into this mindset considering that now we have a whole generation of kids raised on the internet. We're starting to see the negative impact on a mass degree, especially in a post-COVID world. In comes that side quest where that boy's mind gets trapped in Eden whilst his body is sold abroad and experimented on. All this to say, I like the stance that the game takes. It shows you the absolute worst, but also likes to remind you the best are out there and they're trying. Chapter 12, Wandering. This is the digital world and we come face to face with the real Yugo. So yeah, he has Eden syndrome, though unlike us, his body is completely digital, linked to the Eaters. While his sister was being consumed by the Eater, he had tried to reach out to her, hence us being dragged in here. He shows us a vision of what's become of the digital world consumed by Eaters. We need to come and find him before that can happen. The secret to that is within ourselves, as just like how there's fragments of himself within the Eaters, there's fragments of himself within us. Yugo says that unfortunately our time here has to be cut short as she has come for us, as we see a vision of a giant Digimon pulling us back into our world. As we part, he says to tell his sister along with Arata and Nokia that he's doing okay. By this point you should be thinking about the constant flashes of those 5 faceless kids we keep having. Along with the information we'd received a while back where we find out that the first case of Eden syndrome came from a beta test several years ago, along with the fact that he shouldn't know who Arata and Nokia are, you should be putting some pieces together. The moment we return, everyone patches through to our line as we've been gone for a week and they're all worried sick. Back at the agency they get us up to speed. As it turns out, it's all hell on earth. Digimon and Eaters are running rampant in the real world.
Human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria!
And on top of that, Kyoko's vanished into thin air and nobody can get a hold of her. The media currently believe that hackers kidnapped Kishibe in order to explain her disappearance. And right now, everyone has their own concerns and objectives. When we told Yuko about her brother, the only thing she can think about is working on a cure for Eden syndrome. Not just for her brother, but because she owes us as well. Arata is pissed off about the fact that hackers are being used as a scapegoat for this whole mess, and Nokia is concerned for all the Digimon that may lash out due to being scared and confused about being in a new environment. As for our protagonist, he's fading in and out of reality as the large-scale shift may be affecting our body. To also add to our growing list of problems, Matayoshi is here to arrest Arata. His superiors want to use him as a scapegoat as the former leader of Judes, as he was a prominent factor in the invasion of Valhalla. Matayoshi doesn't want to do this, but at the end of the day he has people to answer to. I do really want to stress how apprehensive Matayoshi is during this scene, but Arata decides to go on the run. With all the tension in the air, everyone goes off to pursue their objectives, leaving us alone in the empty office with nothing to do but ponder Kyoko's fate as we look up at the mural. Date bursts in to ruin the ambience with a new client for us, Lopmon. Definitely the shortest chapter, probably the heaviest. Just as we're getting a large amount of answers to the ongoing mysteries, is the moment the status quo changes, and things get serious. The comfort zone we've had throughout the entire game is nowhere to be seen, and at the time that we need her the most. But it's the silent moment that our protagonist looks up at the mural that I like to imagine he's thinking to himself, it's time for me to man up. And Date's timing is absolutely perfect. The comic relief character bursting in to remind you, yeah, shit is serious now, but this is still the same wacky world you know and love. No need to get so down in the dumps. Chapter 13, Tokyo Digification. Lockmon and Tokomon ended up lost in this world and want to be reunited. We hesitate to accept the case, but Kyoko's words echo in our head. A client is a client, whether human or Digimon, no matter what. Date also tells us that Arata's now on the national wanted list. Matayoshi had tried his best to defend his case, but it fell on deaf ears. What isn't helping is the fact that Arata's now gone into hiding. Date is actually uplifting though and tries to cheer us up by telling us to believe in Matayoshi. Date's weirdly grown on me. She doesn't even do the whole I'll arrest you gag anymore. She's always checking in on you and making sure you're doing okay. Let's see, we've got a mother. Kyoko's more of our mentor. Date's like the cool auntie. Lockmon has a really cute moment too. Since it's present when Date updates us about Arata, once she leaves, Lockmon says that if our friend is also lost, let's find our friends together. That got me to smile, that's so wholesome. Oh, and Pete's here too. He takes on the role of our secretary. It's cool to see that Nakano and its people haven't changed. I think we're gonna be alright. The streets are a mess. Digimon are just out and about and there are digital shifts all over the place. Thankfully we bump into Nokia, who gets really fired up when we tell her about our case. So she and the rebels will look in the real world and we'll go and check Eden. I do love how even though there's so much going on right now, we're still going out of our way to do what little we can to help the little people. It's that flicker of humanity that gets me going. And of course, Mum checks in on the Digiline. I do find it kind of funny how I went missing for a whole week, giant vortex opened up in the sky while Digimon are running around and you didn't call me? Mum? Mama? Mummy? Oh hey, Chuko! And she's with Tokomon. Catching up with her, she's been working hard and bringing back the execs that Kishibe kicked out. Bless you. Returning to the agency, Nokia says that her and Omnimon are creating a haven for all the lost Digimon, so she'll take care of the two. Girl, I'm liking you a lot more lately. All the characters are getting a glow up and I'm here for it. And it reminds us that we need to do our part and help out. I don't know if I've said it already, but this is kind of it as far as Nokia and her character development goes. This is her role in the story now. She's here to protect all the Digimon and serve as our number 2. She stands side by side with us and goes from an annoyance to feeling like an actual friend and companion. Much later on in the chapter, after we've done some side cases involving helping a hacker reunite with his Digimon, some Digimon audition for a movie which honestly stressed me the fuck out because I was in the middle of de-digivolving, having to convince this police officer that this girl's pet Digimon isn't gonna harm her. There's a lot of interesting cases now involving Digimon in the real world. So you don't really have much of the occult or folklore stuff anymore since the Digimon aren't really digital entities, so we'll lose that element, but this is a fine substitute, as now we get to explore the world from a new angle. There's even a moment where after finishing one of these cases, we imagine one of Kyoko's long-winded explanations or weird references. Oh, yeah, sorry, Nokia being a partner and all. After all that, Nokia calls and wants to talk. It's a very somber conversation where the stress of everything is getting to her, and she doesn't know what to do anymore, as it feels like we've hit a wall. But Omnimon proposes we try to track down the Royal Knights, bringing us to the next chapter. Chapter 14, What is a Youth?
What is a man?
This title pissed me off, because while yeah you can say that, I just thought What is Youth would be an easier read, but that's just this game and its translation in a nutshell. Then I thought, well, this game loves its poetic references, but What is a Youth is a love song and the significance just isn't here, so I don't know. I'm spurging for absolutely no reason. I just hate the English language, translated or not. Omnimon is able to pick up on Gallantmon's signal in Akihabara. On the way we run into Leopardmon and Dynastomon, who are all like, death to the human race. But thankfully Gallantmon arrives and is on our side. Leopardmon and Dynastomon flee as we surmise that half of the Royal Knights are set to destroy the Eaters along with humanity, but they'll need to lay low and store energy since there's no energy from the digital world flowing into ours anymore since the gate is closed. Mom messages us saying that she wishes she'd taken us with her, and I'm just like, shit ma, ain't no thing, I'm grown, you just focus on your work. Sakura also tells us how reliable Ryota's been. We return to the agency and Chika appears. Her father is having a mental breakdown and in hospital, requesting that we look into his past. Best thing for us to do is bring Yuko along. She's already at the hospital visiting Yugo, cementing that she'll do whatever she can to save us, since we saved her. It takes us a while, but we eventually find Yamashina's hospital room. He's adamant on going to the lab to regain his memories. At the lab, some fragmented memories start coming to him. He created the technological basis for Eden, along with the mental data alongside Suedo, who's responsible for locking away his memories. In order to unlock them, we need to use his device in order to get inside his head via a digital shift to retrieve his mental data. I like the design of this stage, and the boss has an interesting gimmick which inverts weaknesses. So with the failsafe defeated, all his memories come rushing back. Just like Suedo, he was working for Nile, Kamishiro had acquired Nile, and it was time for the Eden demo. During the demo, 5 children fell unconscious due to unknown causes. 4 regained consciousness except for 1, being the first Eden syndrome case. Yamashina couldn't bear the guilt of it, so Suedo saved him by locking away those memories. He also stole the children's memories too, but purely for the sake of covering the whole incident up. Once he's told us everything that he remembers, Yamashina says that he wants to lose those memories again, for the sake of being a better father to Chika, as when he was working for Nal and Kamishiro, he was a workaholic who neglected his family. And so we do just that. Feeling pretty empty about it afterwards. Matayoshi calls us urgently as the police force are struggling to deal with an Eater. Once it's dealt with, he says that he spotted Arata being chased by an Eater underground. When we head down there, well hey stranger, you're definitely looking the part of a wanted man these days. I'm imagining him moving around the sewer and underground systems like Saejima. He actually came down here to help his friends that were getting chased by Eaters and says let's fight side by side like old times. Making it to the end, the Eaters are eating the friends he came down here to save. He blames himself once again for being too late. After dealing with the Eater, Arata has lost his patience, and Suedo appears like clockwork with the whole good, let the darkness run deep, before he tells us why he's here. Eaters eat to evolve. That's what Suedo is interested in, the evolution of the world and the people, and those who can't evolve will be weeded out. Suedo then baits Arata into allowing himself to get eaten. Inside the Eater, Arata gets glimpses of Yugo and then seems to remember something about the past, before Suedo pulls him out of the Eater. Suedo seems to have some sort of mastery and control over the inner workings of the Eaters, and this tempts Arata to follow him. Some Orochimaru and Sasuke type shit. Just before taking their leave, Kyoko appears, questioning if this is really what Arata wants, with Arata claiming that he just remembered something very important that he needs to accomplish. Back at HQ, Kyoko apologizes for vanishing, but she's been busy tracking the Royal Knights, and she's got them locked down to 4 locations: Odaiba, Shibuya, Ueno, and Eden. The chapter ends with her offering us some coffee, which we scarf down and enjoy. It's a cute moment. There's a recurring motif in this chapter about repressed memories and how they affect us. At first I was a little annoyed by how much time the game spent building up Yamashina and his role in the story, and it feeling like it ultimately led nowhere, at least in terms of plot revelations, as I feel like we didn't really learn anything new besides, okay, there were 5 children instead of 1, but even then, we've kind of got all the pieces anyway, and it explains Arata's newfound motivation, so long as you're paying attention. But the more I thought about it, the more it grew on me. I found myself thinking about this chapter more than the others because of the bitter feeling it leaves in my mouth. Yamashina initially wanted his memory sealed away all those years ago because he couldn't bear the weight of his sins. However, now he wants them sealed away because his motivations in life have changed. He didn't like who he was before. Yamashina locks those negative emotions away, while Arata will use those negative emotions as a driving force, pushing his character in a new direction. Whilst he was right on the cusp of regaining a positive outlook on life from his Jude days. It's tragic watching it unfold. Chapter 15, Parallel World. Damn, the military's here now. And of course, Shibuya Records stays open. Aw, they even have an Epimon stand. Exploring Eden, I run into Kentoromon, who's going absolutely berserk, and we can't reach him since he's moving so fast. Omnimon says that the only Digimon swift enough to match him would be Ultra Force Veedramon, but unfortunately he never made it through the gate. However, we may be able to cross over into a parallel world where he did make it through and recruit him there. Mirai has a plan up her sleeve as to how this can work, so for now we just need to wait and let her cook. In the meantime, we try to recruit Gankumon. He says he'll join us if we help his disciple Hakumon become stronger. We're gonna do this by assisting him in a battle against Bancho Leomon, one of my favourite Digimon funny enough. Hakumon says he doesn't need our help though and rushes ahead into the digital shift where Bancho Leomon awaits. I use stealth to sneak past the guard into the digital shift. This is a cool stage, lots of diverging paths and puzzles, and all that sidetracking for a fucking medal. Okay, time for Bancho Leomon. He literally helps us out during the fight by giving us stat boosts because, yeah, it's Bancho Leomon, let's be real. After learning that true strength comes from the desire to protect what's important to you, Hakumon digivolves and a new Royal Knight is born in the form of Jesmon, who's gonna be our ally now. As we take our leave, Gankumon thanks Bancho Leomon for his help. From the looks of things, these two won't be getting involved anymore and are leaving it to Jesmon to follow in their footsteps. I guess. I mean, do you guys just not care about... Don't you want to go home? Okay, I won't question the wise old mentors. They're probably indifferent either way. Ah yes, leave tomorrow's problems for the next generation. Time for them to pave the way for a new era. Magnamon, another Royal Knight, is in two minds. He's angry with the humans too, but also gets that two wrongs don't make a right. His priority right now though is to find his missing companions who got lost when they entered this world. Though with perfect timing, Nokia arrives with Lopmon and Tokamon who are trying to find him. Dynastamon then interrupts, reminding Magnamon why they came here in the first place, to avenge all their fallen comrades that fell to the Eaters. Though feeling like now he owes us a debt, along with Omnimon and Nokia's persuasion, he stands with us as we all dogpile Dynastamon in a boss fight driving him off. Still waiting for Mirai to finish her preparations, we spent some time with Yuko who wants to destroy the Yugo avatar, but it turns out that it can't be deleted as it's currently active. Did somebody hack the account? We ask around Kowloon for leads. Turns out though Yuko doesn't know how to speak to people without her Yugo persona, but eventually we catch wind that the Yugo avatar is still active and roaming around. Even receiving a message from the account telling us to meet it where he was born. Yuko surmises that this must be the Avalon server. It turns out that the AI that was programmed into the account by Kishibe is operating independently, and it refuses to be deleted because it doesn't want to die. Yugo doesn't want to die, so we have to take it down by force. It's sad actually, but it's a big character moment for Yuko, learning to evolve and officially killing the persona she once was, and we eat our feelings. Okay, Mirai, time to visit the parallel world. Why did I think it was going to be Talmon opening the portal? I've been playing too much Next Order. This is Rena. Okay, girl, what is this outfit? I like the hoodie and shorts, I mean that's my gym attire, but why is it open like that? She's got the goggles keeping the top together with the hoodie. Sis, this outfit could work, but it's not making sense right now. But okay, who is she? Rina is somewhat of a legacy character by this point. She's very prominent in the 3DS Digimon World games, and since then she's been a recurring character in the franchise just like Mirai. At this point in time I haven't played Hacker's Memory so I can't speak to that, but she does appear in Next Order, but more of a fun DLC character that gives you random quests. But with her, what you see is what you get. She's just a fun, kooky gag character who talks fast and seems to be operating on a different plane of existence to everyone else. I think the band-aid on her head is trying to tell us something. We love a neurodivergent queen. I like mine slightly autistic. So, Barbamon, one of the 7 deadly Digimon, has stolen Veemon's powers and we need to go get it back. When we reach him, Rina just beats the fuck out of him. This actually had me dying when I first watched it. It's not quite up there with Ash going band for band with Mewtwo, but you got heart, sis. After we defeat him, Veemon gets his power back, Digivolving into Ultra Force Veedramon. Once we explain our situation, he agrees to come with us. And after a tearful goodbye, Rina ends up coming too, though she kind of exists like us now where her body exists back in her own dimension and here she's more of a cyber body. It really doesn't mean anything though. Okay, let's deal with Kantoramon. Oh, we're meant to be flying. It took me a while to notice. I swear to God I didn't skip that, that's the whole cutscene. Once he's calmed down, he hears us out and Rina convinces him to join our course. And that's kind of it for Rina, at least in terms of the plot. Like, you'll see her and Veedramon just hanging around and she'll occasionally send you Digimail, but yeah, she won't show up in the plot from this point, which is fine. She's more of a glorified cameo if anything. I tend to just forget she's here half the time. Date calls us about an eater running amok. We take it down with Arata, who then eats the eater. Arata spouts on about how he's now beyond human and it's thanks to Suedo that he now has this power. Gallantmon shows up wanting to slay him. We take control of Gallantmon to confront him, but none of our attacks are able to connect, as Arata flees the scene in pursuit of more power. The last royal knight that anyone has yet to make contact with is Examon, who's currently storming around Odaiba, who's also the strongest of the knights. Crusademon is currently en route to make contact with him, so we need to reach Examon before Crusademon does, and that ends the chapter. So yeah, this chapter is all about introducing us to the Royal Knights and trying to convince them to join us. Debatably the longest chapter, hence I'm not including any side quests, but I'm thankful that at the very least it moves fast enough given all the different arcs pertaining to each Royal Knight. Now Arata's heel turn may seem to come out of nowhere since now he's all power, 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 but with Revelation soon to come it'll make sense. I think the character work done for Yuko was absolutely fantastic, and would you believe that she's still not done? She still has ways to go, so let's jam. Chapter 16, Isle of Dragons. What nationality was the person who first brought coffee to Japan? Britain represent. Oh, it's Dutch. My lack of general knowledge would shock you. Shit is going down in Odaiba as we come face to face with Crusademon. So yeah, she hijacked Kishibei's body, infiltrated Kamishiro and aided Suedo in his research. She was also the one that killed Yuko's father, as it was his sin that brought the Eaters to the digital world. Crusademon succeeds in provoking Examon to continue its rampage against the humans before taking her leave. Thankfully the other knights arrive to back us up, but we barely make a dent before his attention takes him elsewhere, with Ultra Veedramon and Jesmon giving chase. Gallantmon is heavily fatigued after the fight, giving Arata the perfect opportunity to eat him and then flee the scene. The armed forces get called in and everyone's encouraged to stay indoors. Silly question, but wouldn't this be the time to evacuate? Anyway, Kyoko states that Examon can only be active during digital shifts due to how much power it needs to be sustained, so it won't be much longer till it goes back to being dormant, so we don't actually have to worry about him for now. Our objective should be to cut off the supply of digital waves to weaken and loosen Crusadermon's control. Kyoko is able to trace a spot in Kowloon where the waves overlap. Yuko bolts over there without hesitation. So we're going to. Feels like I haven't been here in ages, honestly. We tried to get Yuko to calm down, but along the way she's increasingly hostile. She's gunning for revenge over her father's killer, but a subtle touch I really like is how throughout the chapter, everybody else refers to Crusadermon as Crusadermon, but Yuko refers to Crusadermon as Miss Ray, showing that she still isn't able to let that attachment go. She's wrestling with it on all sides. The woman who was somewhat of a sisterly figure was responsible for her father's death, so saying she's conflicted is an understatement. And with perfect timing, enter Suedo, who goes on to explain that Arata is assimilated with an Eater, meaning he's able to absorb data in order to get stronger, but this also means that his body has to adjust in order to be able to handle it. When Yuko asks if he knew the truth about Miss Ray, he says he figured something was up, but in the end they both used each other to pursue their own goals, but he had no idea that her intentions were to wipe out humanity, which goes against his own plans. He already knows why we're here, and he's here to help. He wants us to be his escort to disable the digital wave flow. Craniamon is guarding the area, though before fighting him, Sodo actually tries to negotiate with it, asking if it's curious about how far evolution can go. It rejects his proposal and combat ensues. Dealing with him, Sorode starts disabling the waypoint. During this, he expresses to Yuko that her father's death was a tragedy and that he regrets not being able to stop Crusadermon's ambitions, as Kamishiro was one of the few men that he actually respected. Yuko presses him for the truth about what his plans actually are, and what Miss Ri meant when she said that Kimishiro's sins is for his children to bear. With Sorode responding with, "It's painful enough that Arata awakened to his sealed memories. No more sadness should be permitted to exist. His objective is to get rid of grief and pain," then laughing hysterically as he exits. With Yuko commenting that he's behaving like a childish brat. Though this makes her reflect on her own behaviour and she apologizes to us for being so rude along the way here, and we brush it off. When Kyoko and I are alone, Kyoko more or less summarizes Yuko's whole arc. She spent her entire life wearing different masks. The CEO's daughter, Yuko the Zaxxon leader, she was never able to sit and feel her way through her emotions, as she always had to put on a performance, and here she is dealing with them all at once. I've said it before in my Trolls into Reverie video when talking about Risha, but I find characters with dual identities absolutely fascinating, and that goes for Yuko too. We get to see her in many different lights and different facets to her personality, like how, for instance, it's never explicitly said, but remember back at the start of the game how this all kicked off because we got tricked by a fake Mr. Navit? Well, that was all Yuko, operating as Yugo in order to find and recruit worthy Digimon tamers to Zaxxon. Alongside, when we were stuck in the Kamishiro server, Kyoko told Yuko to leave. She did technically leave, but what she actually did was go to find a spot to jack into as Yugo to bail us out, then came back to the lobby to greet us. She's a badass character, and hopefully from now on she'll become more confident in speaking her mind. And she will, and it's gonna be juicy, in a scene that stuck in my brain from way back when I first played the game 8 years ago. But before we get there, let's dive into a cute little story revolving around our adorable feline Pete. The Occult Club return once again. There are numerous unsolved mysteries throughout Nakano that occur at night, like strange noises and shadows and whatnot. It's a typical plotline where kids' imaginations run wild. If you've seen enough anime, you know exactly what I'm talking about. The 12 unsolved mysteries and blah 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 blah. So we camp out in Nakano overnight. See, during this occult exploration, now the lack of music works. It feels ominous. The answer to all the mysteries is just this old man that likes to relax at the cafe at 2 AM. Even he doesn't know why he comes here. So we leave him be, but when he's alone, a flash of Pete appears and disappears. The following day, Pete starts acting very strange, muttering about not knowing who he is or where he belongs. Not speaking to us, but more as if he's in a trance speaking to himself. A quest comes in from the old man who wants us to find his cat, and a digital shift takes place taking us back to where we initially encountered Pete and Fridgemon. Pete's there but wants to be left alone. Through some digging, it turns out that the old man worked on the supercomputer. His cat Miko would keep him company during those lonely work sessions. When Miko passed away, he input all the data about Miko into the time capsule that has now merged with Pete, and Pete has now awoken to these memories. So we part ways with him, so that he can accompany the old man in his final few years. It's a sweet story, and that's Pete's conclusion. He exits the story. I always appreciate things like that, because ultimately Pete was a fun recurring character, and he could have been redundant as the plot points that he was involved with could have been worked around without him, but the fact that they went out of their way to give him such a sweet send-off pulls at my heartstrings. Time for some mood whiplash. Arata calls us to Odaiba alone to confront Examon in its weakened state. He wanted to test his power against it and talks with us for a while. Well, more talks at us, honestly. He tells us how his hunger has grown insatiable. The more he eats, the less he feels. He's well aware that Soido is most likely using him, but he doesn't care. There was something he needed to do that he had forgotten about for so long. He doesn't actually eat Examon, saying that it's too much data for him to actually handle. He exits, saying that he's no longer the person we once knew, and that we're most likely disappointed in him. Ending the chapter. Let's push on. Chapter 17, Recollection. Woo! Mom's coming home soon. Rina's still showing Kentoramon around. Cool. I'll be honest, giant Megazord-sized Digimon getting dragged around and scolded by a teenage girl is comedy that writes itself. Okay, it's finally time for the big reveal that the game's been teasing and teasing and teasing. We managed to track down Crusademon. She says that her killing Kamishiro was due to the thoughts and desires of the original Kishibe. Kishibe had always desired to take over the company. That's what allowed Crusademon to hijack her body so easily since their feelings resonated. This is firsthand what human emotions are at their core. Yuko presses her further as she's finally starting to piece everything together. We 5 were the children during the beta test 8 years ago. Myself, Yuko, Yugo, Arata, and Nokia. We discovered a link into the digital world, entered it, and brought the Eaters with us. But Crusademon cuts the conversation short, saying it's time for her revenge. We face her in battle, and it's surprisingly easy. Okay, cool. Everyone seems to have vanished. Where are we? I'm getting that same feeling I had back in Paper Mario with Shadow Mario. Oh. Hey guys, long time no see. Just by running through, you can see that Kowloon Level 1 was the original beta testing ground. Left to rot. Okay, no, that still looks kinda creepy. Chapter 18, Lost Memories. Crusademon had set a trap to lock us away, so now it's up to the Nakano ladies to rescue us. Kyoko is able to pinpoint our location, so Nokia and Yuko come to our location, as they watch the events of the past play out, as the 5 kids play around in Eden, stumbling into a portal to the digital world, and all the kids step through. Before present day Nokia and Yuko are able to follow, a phantom of Yugo appears to give us some exposition along with words of encouragement. His mental data has been stuck in the digital world, hence why he appears whenever there's an Eater. The Eaters operate as a hive mind and he's part of that shared data now. The girls press onwards. Welcome to the digital world. Here we see that Nokia had met Agumon and Gabumon as a child, hence the feeling of familiarity they all had when they met earlier in the game. An Eater had come through the portal with them and started devouring everything. Yugo stayed behind to try to draw its attention to give everyone a chance to escape, but as we all know, Arata gave the order for everyone to run. But he looked back before stepping through the portal, to see Yugo getting eaten. Upon returning, Arata became infuriated by his own weakness. As the girls in present day process everything that they've just seen, Crusademon arrives with a horde of Eaters claiming that this is the original sin. As she's about to take their heads, in comes Kyoko.
不確かな可能性を私は信じよう。
Alphamon. And we've returned too, as Kyoko and I have one final face-off with Crusadermon. Upon her defeat, as she lays dying, she says that Leopardmon's plan is to use the digital waves to fuel himself to destroy humanity and the Eaters in one fell swoop. As we're then treated to one of my favourite death scenes ever.
さようなら、ロードナイト、いえ、リエさん。今度こそ、本当にお別れみたいね。寂しくても泣いちゃった。私、あなたのバカみたいな喋り方、大嫌いでした。そのキャラ作りっていうか若作り見苦しいし正直痛々しいですから。あら奇遇ね。私もゆうこちゃんっていうか生意気でしてて不公平度打ち負けそうなくらい大嫌い。
Man, this scene gets to me. It's just these two telling each other how much they hated and despised one another. I just didn't expect it. Nothing about how they saw any good in each other, no good memories they shared throughout the years, no I saw you as a sister or maybe things could have been different, just I detest everything about you. It's refreshing, and Yuko is just so matter of fact about it. There's no emotion, no outburst, no tears, just her. Finally speaking from the heart. No mask, no persona, just in her most purest form, and it's absolutely delicious. So who exactly is Alphamon? A royal knight that occupies an empty seat, usually doing its own thing, the wandering hermit. When the Eaters attacked the digital world, it was the first to become aware that they came from a digital space in a separate world, so it came to investigate on its own. And at the same time, the original Kyoko Kuremi was working with Yuko's father to uncover the truth behind Nile, Kamishiro, and Eden, until one day Kishibe lured her into a trap. She'd planned to kill her, but then they were both consumed by Eaters. It was most likely Soido, who knew of Kishibe's plans to take over Kamishiro. Kyoko was just unfortunately caught in that crossfire. Soido was just such a cool and interesting villain. Alphamon slipped through a gap but couldn't exist in its original form and found Kyoko's body and replaced her mental data with its own, taking over her body. As we established with Crusadermon and Kishibe, and I guess throughout the entire game now that I think about it, in order for a Digimon to have a human host, they need to be in sync. So Kyoko's sense of justice lined up alongside Alphamon's, and it turned out that the Kuremi Detective Agency was the perfect way to gather information. She asks if we think less of her for deceiving us, and what's the old saying? A pretty face has unlimited opportunities. And now that you're an unstoppable dummy mummy, yeah, all is forgiven. Leopardmon will reuse the digital line that was used in the Paradise Lost plan to digivolve into something more powerful than Examon. So we're going to reverse engineer the Eden nodes, so that when he tries to absorb the energy, it will drain him instead. It'll be down to Nokia to unite all the hacker factions to get them on board with the plan. Chapter 19, Lion Knight of the Round. Kyoko even joins us in random encounters now. That's when you know you've reached endgame. We enter the Metropolitan building in order to reach the top to confront Leopardmon. Probably the longest dungeon in the game, which still isn't very long honestly. And right around the time that I was thinking that I should message my mother, here she is. Yes, of course we can be friends, mum. I also love how the military is just cool with us being here. Whoa, my boy Ryota, him and Sakura are officially dating now. All these little plot threads are starting to come full circle and This reeks of this game's gonna end with me dying. Arata reached the top first and plans on eating Leopardmon once he's fully charged. Arata still feels guilty for leaving Yugo behind and wants to save him. That's what's been driving him this entire time, and... So he begs us not to get in his way, and when we insist on stopping him, he transforms and wants to eat us. What even? So it's a fight, and at first I was on board with this whole bit of drama, until right before the fight he drops the "give me your power" line. Because during the boss fight, all I could think to myself was, okay, so if you eat us, do you plan on explaining all this to Yugo whenever you get around to saving him, you dickhead? Until afterwards, when we did jump into his mind like we did with Yuko, and he gives us this whole angst about how weak he is, how pathetic he is, he couldn't even save a single friend, and... We just respond to all this with a punch to the fucking face. Thank you. And then when Nokia arrives, it kills all the tension in this scene. in a good way. So yeah, all the hackers have reversed engineered the nodes. And before I move on, let's finish talking about Arata. His whole arc from the very beginning is about the facade he wears in front of other people. At first it was due to the fact that he had his idealistic worldview crushed, and so he retreated into himself, acting like he was always so above it all. But right when we're on the cusp of bringing him back to his old self, that's when Suido gets to him and unlocks his memories, dragging him back down and reminding him of his own weakness. And based on what happened at the start of the game, and when we were attacked by an Eater, Arata was the first to run, leaving us behind, resulting in us getting Eden Syndrome, being a note-for-note parallel about Yugo. Following that, there was the fact that half of his friends got wiped out later on by Kishibe at the Avalon server, making him realize that he hasn't changed. and he doesn't know how to deal with it besides burying his own emotions. I honestly doubt that here he was serious about eating us, he just needed to commit to the bit in order for us to back down so that he could follow through with his plan to eat Leopardmon. Nokia played a large part in the first half of the game when it came to bringing Arata and Yuko out of their angst, and now I finished what she started. I do like to think that Nokia impacted us as well, since we didn't really have any motivation besides getting our body back, until we were able to see how a straightforward mindset is able to actually make a difference. I know I'm trailing away from Arata, but that's because at this point I just want to drive the point home as to why I think these four characters come together so perfectly. I really do wish that Yuko and Arata had more to say to each other though, because they almost never directly interact, besides the one scene where they just exchange pleasantries, but given how much these two parallel each other, and both of their motivations stem from the same character, Yugo, I just find it strange that Yuko has nothing to say here, or vice versa. But regardless, it all ends with him realizing how stupid he's been, and that in the end he should have had more faith in his friends. Leopardmon wakes up and says that what he's doing is King Drazil's will, but Alphamon says she's also here on King Drazil's will, as her role as the 13th Knight is to stop the other Knights from ever running amok. She's the countermeasure, the anti-Knight. So now we throw down as to determine who's truly enforcing King Drazil's will. I like how this is framed. The more we hear about King Drazil is the more this sounds like a religion, as everyone seems to have their own interpretation as to what he actually wants. It's as if he's not even a living entity, but some nebulous force or a god. Now that we've taken down Leopardmon, all that's left is to do something about all the Eaters. Pseudo shows up with a plan. All we need to do is release the energy that we drained from Leopardmon and open the gate to send Eaters back to the digital world. Now as to actually wipe them out for good, we need to enter the digital world and destroy the Mother Eater that has fused with the Mother Computer, or as the Digimon refer to the Mother Computer as, King Drazil. We also need to extract Yugo from the Mother Eater. Eaters were never meant to eat human data, but once they ate Yugo, they evolved and changed. He knows all this because he has access to the Eater network. But when we do this, time will rewind and create a separate timeline of events until the present day, because something about how the Eaters interpret data and it's beyond human understanding and comprehension, and it's a lot of technobabble and it's been over 40 hours, I'm so tired. In short, Yugo and I should be able to return to our bodies as Eden Syndrome would never have existed. Everyone steals their resolve as this is the point of no return. Oh, it's the end. Where's my mother? Oh, she'll be back for her birthday. Can't wait. Love you. Ah, fucking hell. I keep forgetting about Rena. Honestly, I think the game does too. We also unlock a lot of extra quests, which are just here for bonuses and whatnot. Some super bosses if you're interested. I'm not. On to chapter 20. Chapter 20. From the New World. Welcome to the digital world, or at least what's left of it. Here we're no longer dealing with wild Digimon but these corrupted gods since King Drazil has been taken over by the Eaters. Our body is also growing much weaker. Yugo's been waiting for us as we face the last boss. We cannot jump inside and bring him back. We don't have time to enjoy the moment though, as he's been suppressing the Eaters through the Mother Eater, but now that he's out, the Eaters run wild, so we need to finish this. Though this is where Pseudo makes his move. He fuses with King Drazil to form a brand new world, one without pain, sadness or misery, the ultimate form of evolution. A world without negative emotions. I've seen this somewhere before. I'm obviously joking, calm down. Our body can't connect jump anymore since it's been exposed to too many Eaters. If we try one more time, it'll cost us our life. So for now, all we can really do is to subdue the pseudo Mother Eater. And it's a good boss fight. Multiple stages as we reach higher and higher. It has different parts with different effects we can target. Multiple assist Digimon swapping in and out. Dope as hell. It's what a final boss should be. Although, beating him is not the solution. Our entire plan in coming here was on Pseudo being our trump card. But now he's our adversary, so nobody has a solution as to what to do now since all he has to do is wake up and continue with his plan. So we make the ultimate sacrifice.
行けサイバースルース君だけの真実をつかみ取れ
あいつ。
嘘。なんでダメ。
あの子の決断がもたらす結果を見届けよう。
We have a very, very long conversation with him, but eventually we convince Pseudo, or at the very least, he convinces himself that there's no logic to what we're all doing. And he comes to the realization that humanity can only evolve to the point of surpassing or becoming gods. Things should just return to how they were and stay that way. Once we return, everyone scolds us for being so reckless. All the mental data is returning to our world, and we all say a tearful goodbye. Though, just before we enter the portal, I vanish.
「あれから1週間が経ちました。東京はまるで何事もなかったかのように、今日も人で溢れ返っています。と言いますか、本当に何もなかったのかもしれません。私たちだけの記憶、それはみんなにとってないものと同じなんだと思います。自称ひよたの新くんが言うには、分岐していた時間軸が合流したのだそうです。いろいろ説明してくれましたが、半分寝ながら聞いていたので、ぶっちゃけよく分かってません。でも要するに、私たちの過ごした8年間がまるっと変わってしまった。そのほとんどがなかったことになってしまったのです。この東京は私たちにとって新しい東京です。例えば上白悟、ゆうこっちのお父さん、なんと普通にいます。これには本当にびっくりしました。上白エンタープライズの社長としてバリバリエデンとか運営しちゃってます。ゆうこっちはまだ戸惑っていますが、そのうちお父さんに甘えまくればいいと思います。数年分手加減なしで思いっきり。ついでに岸辺理恵もいたりします。社長秘書だそうです。さらに社長と熱愛中だそうです。近い将来ゆうこっちのお母さんになるかもしれません。頑張れゆうこっち。例えばエデン症候群。新しい東京では8年前に恐ろしいテロ事件が起きて、その事件に巻き込まれた被害者が昏睡状態で眠り続けていたことになっています。みんな1週間前一斉に意識を回復したそうです。ちなみにゆうごくんもそのうちの一人ということで目覚めました。今リハビリに励んでいます。私もお手伝いしてます。回復した理由とか当然みんな知りません。今のところ神様の奇跡説と宇宙人の干渉説が有力だそうです。例えばデジモン、あの子たちに関しては何とも言えません。いると言えばいるし、いないと言えばいないみたいな。デジモンキャプチャーはもう存在しないんだけど、 デジバイスで超流行ってるアプリにデジタルモンスターってのがあって、育成ゲーなんだけどこれが結構ハマっちゃう感じで、そのアプリにアグモンとかガブモンが登場しちゃってるから、驚きというか桃の木というかなんというか、これってどういうこと？わけわかんないんですけどみたいな感じで、もうお手上げです。いわゆる頭パーンです。でも君ならわかるかもしれません。そう、私たちの記憶と変わらない現実もあります。新しい東京には末堂明美はいません。あの人は生まれていないことになっているようです。なんだか少し胸がキュッとしますが、これでよかったんだと自称ひよたの新くんは言っています。京子さんもいません。探したけどいません。でもクレミ探偵事務所はありました。京子さんがいた痕跡もありました。京子さんはいるのでしょうか？私たちには見つけられないだけ？きっとそうなんだと思います。京子さんを見つけられるのは名探偵の君だけ。きっと絶対そうなんです。だからお願い。
おい、しけた顔してんなよな。らしくねえっての。てか、本当は俺だってそんな顔がしてんだよ。けど
分かってるけど、ねえお願い。
心配すんな、絶対帰ってくるって。医者の話じゃ体はピンピンしてるらしいしよ。絶対大丈夫だ、こいつなら絶対。ほら、こいつアホだからエデンのどっかで幽霊やって浮かれてるとか、どっかの誰かさんみたいに。
あれはイーターに囚われていた兄さんの潜在意識の発言で、それにそもそもの原因は私たちにあったのだからと言いますか。いつ兄さんが浮かれていました？
マジレス来たよ。
はい。
まあ
そっか、自称ひよたの新くんの言う通りか。
ノキアさんまで兄をポンコツ扱いするつもりですか？
おい、どこ行くんだ？
探しに行くの。何にもしないでくよくよしてたらアグモンやガブモンに笑われちゃうもん。
ノキアさん、
幽霊やってたらさ、目撃談とかあるかもしれないし、エデン中探せばデータのかけらくらいは落ちてるかもしれないし。あれ、私今電脳探偵っぽくない？そんじゃ聞き込み開始。ついてきなさい。
はあ？助手？俺が？しゃあねえ、付き合ってやるが。けどな、はっきり言っとく。俺が電脳探偵でお前が助手だからな。これだけは譲れねえって。おい、聞けよ。
ようやくお目覚めのようだな。君を見つけてからずっと
We get a nice little epilogue, and when we wake up, okay, nobody judge my party lineup, but in short, our Digimon are parts of our mental data. They can use that to reconstruct our body, and we're hit with the ending credits. And here comes our Marvel post-credit scene.
かしたか。おっとごめんなさい。怪しいものじゃないわ。私は呉見京子、探偵なの。病み上がりでね、なかなか勘が戻らなくて。風変わりな飲み方をするのね。いえ、味覚は人それぞれだし、意外と美味しいのかもしれない。機会があったら試してみるわ。邪魔したわね。それじゃ私はこれで。いきなりでぶしつけだけど、どこかで会ったことはない？すごく大切な何かを忘れてる気がするんだけど。実は今助手を探していてね。よかったらうちで働いてみない？
This cutscene is so fucking cute and it made me smile. And that was Digimon Story Cyber Sleuth. I found this story to be very engaging, for the most part. The premise is strong, calling back to religious tales. The innocent sin that the humans committed now falls onto the children, sins of the father and all of that. And this sin filtered through an omnipotent being gave way for misinterpretation and split factions. It's just kind of annoying that whenever they do butt heads, it's the same argument over and over again. The humans have sinned against us. Not all humans are bad. And that's all we get for 15 or so hours, and it can get dull after a while, but we do get little moments that shine through. The revelation of two of our prominent Digimon representing both sides of the coin by only being able to assimilate with a human due to shared emotions. Kishibe and Crusademon being humanity at its worst, with Kyoko and Alphamon being its absolute best. The arcs that our core characters go through are also a delight to experience. Suruda is also a banger antagonist. He felt more like a wildcard to the plot than anything, always moving on his own outside of the story. He had his own morals and sense of loyalty to Kamishiro. The only time I think he really starts to fall apart is right at the end when we jump into the Mother Eater and he talks himself out of his own plan while we just stand there and watch him monologue. It's kind of fascinating actually. It's almost like hyping yourself up to go to the gym the night before, but then you wake up in the morning and talk yourself out of it. Like, man, I've had a long week, I deserve some rest. It's that kind of vibe. But nonetheless, this game was enough to make me start paying attention to Digimon, so it did its job. And it wasn't just the story either. The world is a lot of fun. Even though there's almost nothing to do, I've said before that not every game needs a plethora of activities in the overworld. The game will take you to various real-life places in Tokyo, and you'll encounter plenty of colourful NPCs, whether you're doing side missions or not. Because even the side quests that I didn't get to talking about have a lot of fun stories, like how Etamon keeps sneaking into Shibuya Records to promote his mixtape. The Digiline is also a fun way to flesh out some of the other characters. Like we get a nice talk with Matayoshi about how Date reminds him of a younger version of himself. The only aspect about the overworld element that annoys me are Mirai's quests. She wants us to track down nefarious hackers that mistreat Digimon. There's 30, but it takes forever to trigger them. You need to use the Digimon on your Digifarm to find the cases, but they'll often find item gather requests instead, which you need to complete a certain amount of before they'll find the quest that Mirai wants you to find. And there's so many, and they're so tedious to do. I just gave up. I stopped caring, honestly. I was down for this until I just felt like my time was being wasted. But Digifarm, right. Let's get into combat and the monster raising part of the game. Combat is very standard. You've got 3 Digimon on the field out of a party of 11. And you and the wild Digimon on the field take it in turns to whack each other based on your speed, which dictates your place on the timeline. It's a rock paper scissors style of combat split up as virus, data and vaccine. There are also elemental advantages and weaknesses too, but the triangle is what's pushed to the forefront. Combat encounters are random, but you'll unlock field skills which will force encounters, reduce or even eliminate encounters. Now, having 11 Digimon in your roster may sound like a lot, but you won't have access to that straight away since each Digimon takes up a certain amount of memory, which is quite limited early on, but it'll increase slowly as you progress through the game. But even then, it may not feel like enough when you're getting super ultimate level Digimon because they take up so much space. One way of acquiring new Digimon is that whenever you encounter a wild Digimon, you'll slowly fill up the data bar. Once you've encountered said Digimon enough times, the bar will reach 100 or 200% if you want bonus stats, and you'll be able to go to Mira's lab and convert the data into the actual Digimon. And thanks to Mira dungeons telling you what Digimon they contain, it can be easy to pursue a specific Digimon. Interestingly enough, there's a split opinion as to how well balanced the difficulty is. You've got normal and hard. Some complain that normal is too easy, while some complain that a hard has too many hard difficulty spikes at times. I played the game on normal, and while I'll admit the game isn't especially difficult, at least until you get to some bosses, I can't help but feel like it's kind of by design to accommodate the monster raising element of the game. Yeah, let's get into this. If there's one thing that Digimon games are well known for, it's the monster raising aspect. It's insane when you look at the amount of layers and mechanics involved here. So you know how most Pokemon games have 3 evolutions max, and even then most Pokemon only have 2? In Digimon, you've got 7. Fresh, in training, rookie, champion, ultimate, mega, and super ultimate. And getting your Digimon to digivolve through those forms isn't as simple as getting them to a certain level. Specific stats also need to reach certain numbers. Now it can be as simple as using them in combat or just keeping them in your party since everyone in your party gets experience. You can give them stat boosting items or you can leave them on the farm to train at Mirai's lab. This is also where you can order them to look for new quests and develop new items. Depending on which Digimon you put in charge of training will depend on what stat all the Digimon increase. These Digimon will also send you messages on the Digiline and even send you gifts. So sweet. Although they do cycle through a lot of the same dialogue, so get used to seeing the same messages. Now what you may find is that one of the requirements for a Digimon to reach the next form surpasses their current cap. So let's say it needs to reach level 30, but it caps at level 26. Or you need to reach 500 strength, but you can't pass 350 due to the level cap. This is where you'll need to de-digivolve to a weaker form, which will then raise the limits of that Digimon when they next digivolve again. So you're gonna be in a constant cycle of digivolving and de-digivolving, which may sound asinine, but the variety comes in the form of multiple forms. Okay, there's no strict Digivolution path to follow. Once a Digimon makes it to rookie stage, you'll have multiple options as to what to digivolve it to, roughly 5 choices, each with their own requirements. So the fun is in playing around and experimenting with different paths while maintaining all your stat boosts. There were numerous times where I'd reach a certain cap, de-digivolve, but then decide, in the meantime I'll temporarily digivolve you into something else while I'm raising your stats up. This is literally just a girl with guns. And sometimes this works better for your party composition if you're trying to keep weaknesses varied. I promise this isn't as complicated as it sounds. The game just doesn't explain a lot of it very well, especially the camaraderie or ability stats. I'm glad I wasn't the only dum-dum that had to look this up. Camaraderie raises by keeping your Digimon active in your party, while ability rises based on the amount of times you've digivolved and de-digivolved. Despite how I sound, I was loving this. It really feels like I have to put in effort and pay attention to how I raise these guys to get them to where I want. Some Digimon won't digivolve until you've become absolute best friends with them. And when you have multiple Digimon that are besties, some have the potential to fuse into brand new Digimon through DNA Digievolution. I think I only did that about 3 times, but half of my footage was of me in the Digilab, figuring out how I wanted to proceed when it came to raising the large amount of Digimon that I had. And I was enjoying every moment of it. And I think the combat is meant to accommodate for the fact that you're constantly going to be cycling through the different generations. If you're the sort of person that loves absolutely breaking games when stat grinding, like this guy are, then you'll feel right at home here. This game was an absolute pleasure to revisit. From this point onwards, I'll be exploring new territory with Hacker's Memory, and then Time Stranger. I can't wait to see where the story goes. So until next time guys, take care, stay safe, train hard.